Chapter 629. Ling Yunhe expressed that he did not know anything about the Moon Shadow Demon Lord. Coincidentally, he met the Moon Shadow Demon Lord who was chasing after Tian Can. Tian Can had no choice but to ask him to deliver a message and promised to invite him along. Mo Tiange was worried. Devil Monarch Yu Ying is one of the 3 great devil cultivators in the late nascent realm in Yunzhong. If Nie Wuxiang is being chased by him, what if? She said, look at Ling Yunhe. He's not anxious at all, so he knows Nie Wuxiang isn't in danger for the time being. No matter what, she's Master Song Fang's disciple. She was only in the core formation realm, yet she was able to cross the South Sea by force, so it's obvious that she has some treasures in her hands. It probably won't be a problem for her to escape. Mo Tiange felt what he said was reasonable. She was confused because she was too concerned. Since he decided to ask Jing Xingji to go with him, she didn't delay. On the same day, he personally went to the Wind Breath Valley on Mount Jiuling in Jin Country. Mo Tiange stayed behind to entertain Ling Yunhe. Now that Xianxia School had built a large number of transporting formations, it was much more convenient to travel. She first teleported to the border between Kunwu and the secular world, then flew. In just half a day, he arrived at Fengxi Valley. After she entered Wind Breath Valley, she met Shang Ruan and inquired about Jing Xingji. Shang Ruan said Jing Xingji had been in closed-door meditation in the Sword Cave for 15 years. He came out of closed-door meditation a few years ago and left. She didn't say where he went, but judging from what he said, he probably went to Yunzhong. She thanked her, then rushed back to Xianxia School. When Mo Tiange heard about this, she said, that being the case, we have no other choice. Maybe we'll be able to find him if we go to Yunzhong. She thought about it. He couldn't say nothing just because Jing Xingji didn't want to go. The next day, they took the spirit beasts with them, handed the cave to the disciples, and left with the cloud-soaring crane. They first followed the cloud-soaring crane to the nameless town next to Kuanzhong City, and then used the long-distance transporting formation to Yunzhong. After that, they borrowed the transporting formation of Zhiyan Sect and arrived at Sky Snow City on the same day. Mo Tiange had to admit that the level of cultivation in Yunzhong was indeed higher than in the Celestial Pole. Not to mention the fact that the average cultivation level of the cultivators here was higher, their daily lives were also more convenient. There were transporting formations in many places that they could use. After returning to Sky Snow City, Ling Yunhe summoned Ling Yixuan and asked him about Nie Wuxiang. Ling Yixuan reported that according to the latest news, they seemed to have been lingering in the North Sea and had not returned to Yunzhong. The original North Sea in Yunzhong was the South Sea in the Celestial Pole before the world changed. However, after the world changed, Yunzhong moved northward, and the original North Sea, which was the South Sea in the Celestial Pole, was now located south of Yunzhong and east of the Celestial Pole. Now, in Yunzhong, North Sea referred to the true northernmost sea. The northernmost sea was extremely barren. Apart from some vicious beasts, there were no signs of human habitation. Because of the harsh conditions, the sea beasts were few in number and powerful. Ling Yunhe said that the Sea of Endless Ruin couldn't even be compared to it. Even nascent soul cultivators didn't want to go there. Once Mo Tiange heard what he said, she became very cautious and carefully inquired about the situation in the northernmost sea. Fortunately, Ling Yunhe was prepared and explained everything to them in detail. In the North Sea, the most dangerous thing was the aurora that covered the entire sea all year round. The magnetic force it contained disrupted the 5 elements, and it was difficult to determine yin and yang. Nascent soul cultivators' cultivation would be greatly reduced if they were in it. The area where the aurora shone was known as the Arctic Circle. Next was the shattering wind, which contained a strange power. Every time it blew past, space would become unstable, and there was almost no way to resist it. The only way was to avoid it. Mo Tiange thought it was probably because of these 2 reasons that Devil Lord Moonshadow couldn't do anything to Nie Wuxiang. Ling Yunhe finally revealed his situation when they arrived at Sky Snow City. He formed his nascent soul 20 years after he came back from the Sea of Endless Ruin. Although he didn't get the vermilion bird bow back then, it could be considered a blessing in disguise. His meridians were connected by the vermilion bird's breath, which broadened his meridians and tempered them to be incomparably strong, so he didn't face any obstacles when he formed his nascent soul. After he formed his nascent soul, he stepped down from his position as the head of Juyen sect and became the Grand Supreme Elder. Ling Yunhe formed his nascent soul before her. When they were in the Sea of Endless Ruin, he was still in the late stage of the core formation realm. In just 20 years, he crossed the peak stage of the core formation realm and entered the nascent soul realm. It was clear how much benefit the vermilion bird's breath brought him. Thinking up to this point, Immortal felt a little relieved. At least they didn't harm Ling Yunhe too badly. Thinking about this, Immortal said jokingly, "Fellow Daoist Ling, now that the two of us are under Juyen sect's nose, your sect won't take this opportunity to retaliate, right?" Ling Yunhe smiled faintly. All these years, Martial Uncle Yuan Mu hasn't recovered from his injuries, and Martial Uncle Iron Face is about to pass away. Juyen sect isn't in the mood to make trouble for you too. Really? Immortal stopped smiling. She also had a part in Juyen sect's current situation, so she'd better not say anything. After a moment of silence, both sides had nothing to say, so Ling Yunhe said, "You two should rest first. We'll set off after we get some definite information." They naturally didn't have any objections, and it wasn't convenient for them to have any. They rested in Sky Snow City for a day. The next day, Ling Yunhe set off after getting the latest news about Wuxiang. They still used a long-distance transporting formation along the way, directly transferring from Sky Snow City to North Pole Island. The current North Pole Island lived up to its name. Among the confirmed continents, it was the northernmost one. In just over 20 years, North Pole Island, which used to be bustling with people coming and going, was now desolate. All the shops had been moved, and the residents were nowhere to be seen. The streets were empty, and in the bleak cold wind of the North Sea, the shop signs that hadn't been blown away were tottering, looking extremely desolate. Upon seeing this, Ling Yunhe sighed. In the past, who could have foreseen that North Pole Island would actually have such a desolate day? Human and material resources are no match for the power of heaven and earth. They'd also seen the former North Pole Island, but compared to the one in front of them, it was practically two different worlds. In the cold wind, a hunchbacked figure slowly walked over. When he arrived in front of him, he revealed an old face. "Master Immortals." The old man respectfully bowed to the three of them. "There's no one left on North Pole Island. If you came to trade, you'd better go back quickly." The old man was just a mortal, so he couldn't see their cultivation levels, so he made such a guess. In the first few years after the world changed, cultivators who had just come out of closed-door meditation often came to North Pole Island to hunt beasts and trade without knowing the inside story. Unfortunately, their trip was in vain. "Old man, thank you for reminding us, but we didn't come to trade," Ling Yunhe replied with a pleasant expression. "Grandpa, Grandpa." Before the old man could say anything, a call came from not far away. A sturdy teenager came looking for them. "Grandpa." This teenager was an aura-refining cultivator with spiritual roots. When he saw the old man, he ran over happily. In the next moment, when he saw the three of them, his smile disappeared and he greeted them with a bit of fear. Junior greets seniors. His cultivation level was too low, so he also couldn't see their actual realms, but their powerful auras couldn't be faked. He guessed that since they were a bit stronger than foundation-building cultivators, they should be in the core formation realm, right? No need to be so polite. Ling Yunhe raised his hand and gestured for the teenager to leave. He asked, "There's no one left on North Pole Island. Why haven't you left?" The teenager said, "It's my grandpa who refuses to leave. He said he lived on North Pole Island all his life and didn't want to leave his hometown." Ling Yunhe frowned slightly. "But this place is no longer suitable for people to live in." Although North Pole Island wasn't in the Arctic Circle, it was very close. From time to time, auroras would leak out, and the tail of the wind would also sweep here. The old man's face was full of vicissitudes. He sighed and said, "I don't have many years to live. Just let me die here. This grandson of mine is filial. I told him to leave a few years ago, but he refused." Ling Yunhe looked at the teenager and said, "Do you know that if you live here for a long time, Your body will be damaged and your future achievements will be affected. Once the old man heard that, he hurriedly pulled his grandson. Good grandson, is this true? The teenager was silent for a long time before he nodded. I know, but I can't leave my grandpa behind. Good grandson, it's hard to leave one's homeland. Ling Yunhe sighed. He took out a jade bottle from his robe and handed it to the teenager. This bottle of medicinal pills is used for body tempering, so it won't be a big problem to resist the auroras and hurricanes. Your grandpa is old and weak, so he can only eat one pill at most. You can use the rest to temper your body. The teenager was surprised and happy. Senior, take it. The teenager took it, then knelt down and kowtowed without saying anything. Thank you, senior. The old man beside him also bowed repeatedly. Thank you, Master Immortal. Thank you, Master Immortal. You're really kind. It's nothing. No need to thank me, Ling Yunhe said faintly. He then turned to Xianxia and Xianxia and said, Let's go. After he said that, he took the lead and flew far away. Xianxia and Xianxia looked at each other, then followed him. They could see that Ling Yunhe's behavior was very strange this time. Although the original Ling Yunhe valued friendship, he would never show it on his face, let alone be so sentimental. Xianxia couldn't figure it out, and Xianxia knew even less about Ling Yunhe. After thinking for a long time, she directly asked, Fellow Daoist Ling. Ling Yunhe didn't stop and only answered faintly, N. She said, Did something happen to you? Ling Yunhe didn't answer for a long time. He was flying in the front, so she couldn't see his expression. After a long time, she heard his soft voice. If everything is destroyed, what's the point of fighting? Everything is destroyed. Since Xianxia suddenly stopped moving, Xianxia also stopped. Ling Yunhe flew for a while but didn't see them following him, so he had to turn back. What's wrong with you two? Xianxia stared at him. What do you mean by, everything is destroyed? Ling Yunhe smiled and said carelessly, I just said it casually. I'm afraid not. Xianxia also smiled. Although we don't have a big grudge, we have a grudge with Juyen sect for stealing treasures. The current predicament of your two late-stage nascent soul cultivators is more or less related to us. Under such circumstances, how could ordinary people be willing to associate with us? Not only did you not care about it, but you also traveled thousands of miles just to pass a message. Xianxia's expression turned cold. Fellow Daoist Ling, if you still have sincerity, you'd better tell me the truth. Ling Yunhe stared at him but didn't say anything. Xianxia didn't force him, but he also didn't give up. He looked at him calmly. Suddenly, Ling Yunhe smiled and looked at Xianxia. If it was someone else, I wouldn't, but she. Chapter 630. When he said the word, her, Ling Yunhe paused and stared at Xianxia with a faint smile on his lips as if he was waiting for Xianxia's counterattack. To his disappointment, Xianxia didn't react and just stared at him. After a long time, Ling Yunhe sighed. Are you too confident or don't you care? Seeing that Xianxia still didn't answer, he said seriously, Don't pretend you don't understand. He was determined to hear an answer. Xianxia finally opened his mouth, but he just shook his head. This is between us, so I don't know where to start. He didn't have the habit of telling other people about his love affairs, and he didn't need to. Ling Yunhe was stunned. After a long time, he smiled bitterly. Forget it. Why should I look for trouble? His eyes regained their clarity and he said, I'll tell you about this, but now isn't the time. When is that? Xianxia didn't want to be brushed off. When I calm down. Ling Yunhe said something that wasn't calm at all and was about to turn around. However, he heard Xianxia's voice from behind him. Do you also know the reason why the distant past and Middle Ages world were destroyed? Ling Yunhe suddenly stopped and turned around. Xianxia stared at him without blinking. Their conversation just now was out of the blue, so she didn't really understand. However, she somewhat understood what Ling Yunhe said just now. Everything would be destroyed. Aside from the thing they knew, what else could be called, everything would be destroyed? Ling Yunhe must know something. After a long time, Ling Yunhe asked, How do you know? Sure enough, you know. Xianxia didn't answer but just stared at him. Ling Yunhe sighed again. He had been sighing a lot lately. He said, "Let's go find fellow Daoist Tiankin first. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to find him." Tiange only thought for a few seconds before she agreed. All right. Compared to this matter, she cared more about Nie Wuxiang's safety. As if nothing had happened, the three of them flew towards the depths of the North Sea again. The further north they flew, the stronger the sea breeze became. In the end, it faintly carried the power to tear everything apart. When it blew past, the surrounding space became extremely unstable. Ling Yunhe reminded, "This is the splitting wind. We will soon enter the Arctic Circle. Under the aurora, the splitting wind will be even stronger. If we encounter the eye of the storm, there's no other way but to hide." The sky grew darker and darker, but the northern sky gradually lit up with a layer of fluorescent light. This fluorescent light was colorful, like fog and lightning. It was extremely gorgeous, as if an immortal had held a brush and waved it freely, leaving behind a thick and colorful brush stroke. However, this extremely beautiful scenery was accompanied by a threatening killing intent. Right after the three of them entered the range of the aurora, Missouri Tiange's and Qin Shi's protective spiritual light suddenly emitted smoke. Ling Yunhe stopped and said, "The aurora has magnetic forces. It's best if the two of you have some special means of protection." Tiange and Qin Shi glanced at each other. Between the two of them, Qin Shi specialized in fire, but it seemed he wasn't very useful at the moment. As for Tiange, she learned a lot of things, but unfortunately, her strongest defensive magic weapon, the white silk handkerchief, had been destroyed. The two of them pondered for a while. Tiange summoned the 8 trigrams of Tai Chi while Qin Shi took out a silk-like immortal robe. He waved his hand and spread it out, forming a silk cloth to protect the two of them. This immortal robe was one of the rewards from the Immortal Alliance. It came from the warehouse in Fengsha City. They had completely solved the problem of the demonic cultivators in the East Sea and made a great contribution. The Immortal Allies specially rewarded them with a lot of wealth. They were not short of spirit stones or elixirs, so they picked a few magic treasures that were more useful and left the rest in the cave abode to fill up their collection room. Ling Yunhe's gaze stopped on the immortal robe for a moment and then moved away. It was a good magic weapon, but it had no value to him. The farther north the three of them flew, the stronger the magnetic forces of the aurora became. Moreover, they couldn't hide it all. The splitting wind blew frequently, and its power was even greater than the aurora. This flight lasted for 3 days. Ling Yunhe's spies didn't dare to enter the North Sea. They just watched from the edge of the North Sea. These days, they didn't find any trace of Moon Shadow Devil Master or Nie Wuxiang, so they deduced that they should still be in the North Sea. As for where they were, they could only find it themselves. Fortunately, Nie Wuxiang left a primordial spirit tablet to Ling Yunhe, so he could roughly sense the distance between them. They could be sure that Nie Wuxiang was still safe. A sharp sound rang in their ears. The turbulence in the space caused by the splitting wind instantly intensified. Ling Yunhe's expression changed. "Not good. The eye of the wind is coming." The three of them looked up. Not far away, huge gray vortexes sucked the sea surface. Wherever they passed, the sea surged, the ice floes shattered, and huge waves were set off without exception. "We have to hide for a while," Ling Yunhe said hurriedly. "The power of the eye of the wind is definitely not something we can resist. Even late nascent soul cultivators can't resist it." Tiange looked around and frowned. "There's seawater and ice flows here. Where can we hide? The bottom of the sea?" Ling Yunhe nodded. "Yes, the bottom of the sea." He paused for a moment then added, "Most of the demonic beasts in North Sea hide at the bottom of the sea. We must be careful when we enter the sea." The eye of the wind was moving. Before long, it would reach their position. After Ling Yunhe finished speaking, he dove into the sea without hesitation. Qin Shi didn't waste any time. He spread his immortal robe and threw it to Tiange. He then shook his arm to summon the sword formation and also dove into the sea. Tiange didn't say anything. She could only put on the immortal robe and follow him. Under the influence of the splitting wind, the seawater was also turbulent. Fortunately, They were all nascent soul cultivators, so this little turbulence was nothing to them. By the time the eye of the wind reached the sea above their heads, they had already dove deep into the sea and couldn't be affected. In the past few days, there hadn't been any trace of living creatures on the sea surface. It wasn't until now that they saw a vague shadow swimming in the sea. Tiange watched the shadow glide by and didn't disappear for a long time. She was a bit frightened. Such a big sea beast, but its breath was so weak. She didn't think that the lack of breath was weak. Ling Yunhe said the sea beasts that could survive in North Sea were all in the nascent soul realm. Ling Yunhe was prepared. As soon as they reached the bottom of the sea, he took out a palm-sized boat-shaped magic weapon. As soon as he took out this magic weapon, it quickly became a real ship that could accommodate dozens of people. "Let's go in," he said, and opened the cabin door first. When they entered, the cabin door closed, and the whole ship became a closed space. The eye of the wind might take a few days to disperse. "We'll wait here," Ling Yunhe said, then found a place to sit at the bow of the ship and meditated with his back facing them. Judging from his appearance, he didn't plan to talk to them. Tiange had always been a tactful person. She pulled Xianxia to sit in the back cabin and faced Ling Yunhe from a distance. "How are you?" she asked with concern. "I'm fine." Xianxia knew what she was asking about. Just now, he left the immortal robe to her and only used the sword formation to protect himself. The sword formation's power was greatly reduced under the aurora light and the splitting wind. "I just consumed a lot of spiritual aura, but I can still hold on." After a while, Xianxia said, "In this kind of environment, our strength will decline. Needless to say, except for my natal magic weapon, the vermilion bird bow is fire element. As for you, your heaven and earth fan has all 5 elements, and your Fuxing sword and great heavenly thunder technique are thunder element. That devil monarch moon shadow is not only in the late nascent soul realm, but he also has refined corpses with him. If a devil cultivator is less affected." They were all in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm now. With the divine beast's breath on them, they still had a chance to win against a late nascent soul cultivator, but if they were weakened too much, it shouldn't be. Tiange recalled her experience in Carefree Valley. Devil aura is opposite to spiritual aura, but it's still within the 5 elements and within yin and yang. Filthy aura and dead aura are all unique existences that can affect devil aura. Presumably, aurora and splattering wind are the same. They shouldn't be an exception. In the end, aurora was the power of primordial magnetism, while splattering wind was the power of tearing space. These two kinds of power, regardless of whether they were spiritual aura or devil aura, were different. She thought about it and felt it was reasonable. "I hope so." The two of them were silent for a while, then he suddenly said, "Do you know what Ling Yunhe said that day?" "I do." She smiled. "I thought you wouldn't understand." "I didn't understand at first, but after I thought about it, I understood," Tiange answered honestly. She waited for a long time, but she didn't ask anything else. She couldn't help but ask again, You don't want to ask why?" She looked down at her with a smile on his lips. "Don't want to ask why? I never thought you weren't attractive." His reaction was too calm, as if a sea of jealousy had never appeared on him. Even at this moment he still spoke in such a flat tone. Tiange said, "No wonder he asked that day if you were too confident or if you didn't care." She said, "What he thinks is his business. The matters between us have nothing to do with others. Now, if I don't even have this little bit of confidence, how can I be with him for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years? Feelings are never something that can blossom and bear fruit in a moment of impulse. Suspicion and doubt will only wear away its existence. If it's worn away one day, that'll be the evil we brought upon ourselves." Seeing that Tiange was staring at him, he smiled. "What's wrong?" She sighed and said, "I know now. In fact, I'm the one who lost." She raised his eyebrows, expressing his confusion. Tiange smiled but didn't answer. The splattering wind blew for 2 whole days. 2 days later, Ling Yunhe stood up. Tiange and she also stood up. Ling Yunhe said, "The eye of the wind should be gone now. Let's go up." They were about to answer when the hull of the ship suddenly shook. Ling Yunhe was startled and turned to look outside. A huge eye swept over the ship, followed by a hollow mouth with sharp teeth. "This is a demonic beast from the North Sea?" Mo Tiange was shocked. She had never seen such a huge sea beast in her life. It didn't have any aura on its body, but it was even more terrifying because of that. Ling Yunhe's expression was extremely unsightly. What bad luck. Chapter 631. Fellow Daoist Ling? Mo Tiange and Qin she didn't act immediately. After all, they were inside Ling Yunhe's magic weapon. Ling Yunhe looked at the sea beast outside with a gloomy expression. "Although the three of us can kill this beast if we work together, it'll be a waste of time. It'll be troublesome if we get hurt." He walked forward with a determined expression. "I'll try to get rid of it." "Get rid of it?" Before they could say anything, Ling Yunhe had already made hand seals and cast spells on the ship. In an instant, countless talismans lit up around the ship along with the spells. During this short period of time, the sea beast blinked its eyes, opened its mouth wide, and sucked hard as if it wanted to suck the ship in. The moment the ship started to tilt, all the talismans lit up. Spiritual aura was transmitted from the spirit-gathering formation on the bow of the ship. With a buzzing sound, the bow of the ship that had been sucked in suddenly broke free, turned around, and shot into the darkness like an arrow. The three people on the ship were prepared for this. They didn't move at all. Ling Yunhe looked even more serious as he kept making hand seals. Mo Tiange turned her head to look. Outside the barrier, the sea beast seemed to be stunned for a moment. It blinked its eyes then suddenly dashed towards them. "It's chasing us." Ling Yunhe didn't look back. This was his magic weapon, so he could sense the surging aura chasing them. He said, "Exchange the spirit-gathering formation for spirit stones. The more the better." He was controlling the magic weapon and couldn't free his hands. The spirit stones on the ship hadn't been changed for several days and were about to be used up. Mo Tiange stepped forward and glanced at the spirit-gathering formation providing spiritual aura on the ship. "Fellow Daoist Ling, if you trust me, I'll lay another spirit-gathering formation." "Nonsense." Ling Yunhe interrupted her. "If I don't trust you, who should I trust? Hurry up." Mo Tiange didn't say anything more. She poured out a pile of colorful, sparkling and translucent jades from her Qiankuan ring, each of which emitted extremely pure spiritual aura. Ling Yunhe's eyes widened. "You actually have so many crystal jades." These crystal jades were obtained from the Immortal Palace in the returning ruined sea. Jian sect also obtained many ancient cultivator relics, so Ling Yunhe also had crystal jades. However, he was only a junior and didn't have many, so he only got about 10 of them. Mo Tiange, on the other hand, poured out dozens of them. Mo Tiange didn't pay any attention to him. With a flick of her sleeve, several crystal jades were placed in the original main positions of the formation. Then, her nimble hands quickly dismantled the spirit-gathering array. As she dismantled it, she rearranged it. In just a moment, a brand new spirit-gathering array was set up. During the whole process, the spiritual aura provided to Ling Yunhe was never cut off. When the dozens of crystal jades in the eye of the formation shone together, Ling Yunhe felt the pressure was lifted, and he easily steered the ship forward, breaking the waves. "It should be enough to maintain full speed for several days, right?" Mo Tiange retreated. Ling Yunhe said, "With so many crystal jades, is there even a need to ask?" In a battle of magical powers between nascent soul cultivators, a single crystal jade could sometimes affect the outcome of the battle, let alone so many crystal jades. If those people knew that they were only using them in the spirit-gathering formation to control their magic treasures, they would probably faint from anger. Thinking of this, Ling Yunhe gritted his teeth. He didn't have many crystal jades with him. Using them like this? She was really a spendthrift. He really didn't know how Qin Shoujing endured it. Mo Tiange knew what he was thinking, but she didn't feel it was a pity at all. In any case, the crystal jades would automatically recover, so what was the point of keeping them? Spending some time came back. With the support of the abundant spiritual aura from the crystal jades, Ling Yunhe steered the magic treasure ship forward at full speed. At first, the sea beast behind them followed slowly, but later, as if it was provoked, it chased after them fiercely. This sea beast originally lived in the North Sea, so it was extremely fast. Moreover, it wasn't afraid of aurora or splitting wind, so it didn't have any misgivings when chasing them. Even if Ling Yunhe steered the magic treasure ship to the extreme, he could only guarantee that they wouldn't catch up. In the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. The sea beast was still chasing them, and the magic treasure ship maintained its fastest speed, not daring to relax for even a moment. Will it keep chasing us? Mo Tiange couldn't help but ask. This was also the first time Ling Yunhe faced a sea beast in the North Sea, so he didn't expect it to be so fast. With a serious expression, he said, "I don't know." Demonic beasts were much more patient than humans when they encountered their prey. If this sea beast regarded them as prey, it might chase them to the ends of the earth. But if they didn't run, they could only kill it. Normally, beast cultivators wouldn't surpass the 10th rank. They had 3 nascent soul cultivators here, 1 in the early stage and 2 in the middle stage. Killing a sea beast was nothing difficult. However, Ling Yunhe also said the sea beasts here were very hard to kill, so it would definitely take them some time. If they got injured, it would be better to run if they could. How long will it take to chase us like this? Don't we want to save time? She said with a frown after more than an hour had passed. We won't waste time, Ling Yunhe said casually. Our current direction is the direction where fellow Daoist Tian is. What? Mo Tiange said anxiously, what if we don't get rid of it halfway? Do we take this sea beast to save people? We'll talk about it when the time comes. Ling Yunhe was a bit annoyed while operating the magic treasure. If worst comes to worst, we can just abandon this thing and leave on our own. Mo Tiange didn't say anything. Anyone with eyes could see the value of this magic treasure ship. Although it couldn't compare to a flying boat, it was much more exquisite. It was worth all the wealth of an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Ling Yunhe didn't take this thing out at the beginning, so he probably cherished it very much. Now, he said these words most likely out of anger. After a while, Ling Yunhe calmed down and said, if we can't get rid of it in 3 days, we'll get off the ship and kill it. This ship consumes a lot of energy, so it's not worth staying here for too long. Mo Tiange and Ling Yunhe naturally didn't have any objections. Okay, we'll listen to fellow Daoist. Ling Yunhe was afraid of alarming other sea beasts at the bottom of the sea, so he simply floated to the surface and broke the waves. On the surface of the sea, the aurora was unobstructed. The magic treasure ship let out a soft cry and its shield lit up. It continued to ride the wind and waves without any pause. Mo Tiange looked down. In the spirit gathering formation, the crystal jades gathered spiritual aura even faster. She knew Ling Yunhe was right. Sailing on the surface of the sea like this consumed spiritual aura very quickly because they had to resist the aurora and the wind. Although they could afford the consumption of crystal jades, as Ling Yunhe said, it wasn't worth it. Once the crystal jades were consumed, it would take time to recover. If they ignored the sea beasts behind them, flying at high speed under the aurora was indeed a beautiful scene rarely seen in the world. The aurora in the sky was like mist and lightning, clear and misty. There was no sun or moon around them, but the brightest stars in the world were like golden sand in the darkness. It would be even better if they could feel the sea breeze at this time. Unfortunately, the sea breeze here was the wind of the wind. If it blew directly on their bodies, it would be fatal. Mo Tiange watched for a while. When she turned around, she saw Xianxia cultivating again. She shook her head, calmed her mind, and sat in meditation to adjust her breath. After a long time, they suddenly heard Ling Yunhe's voice. Mo Tiange and Xianxia woke up at the same time and turned to look at him. Ling Yunhe didn't turn around, but he said to them, fellow Daoist Tian is coming towards us. As soon as he said that, the two of them said at the same time, what? The primordial spirit tablet sensed it. The primordial spirit tablet. Then it shouldn't be wrong. Mo Tiange thought about it and felt uneasy. We're dragging a sea beast now. If Demon Lord Moonshadow is following fellow Daoist Tian, she didn't need to continue. They all knew how bad the situation was. Whether it was the sea beast or demon lord Moon Shadow, they weren't afraid if they worked together, but if they met, abandon the ship. Kill the beast. The next moment, she stood up and summoned the 3 Yang real fire sword. Killing the sea beast before they met up with Nie Wuxiang was the best way to deal with it. If Demon Lord Moon Shadow wasn't following them, everything would be fine. If he was behind them, they would have time to fight him. Ling Yunhe naturally understood. He cast a spell, and the cabin door opened silently. Let's go. She took the lead to leave the magic boat after glancing at Mo Tiange. Mo Tiange summoned the jade bone puppet, gave it the Fuxing sword, and jumped out. As soon as she got out of the boat, the 3 Yang real fire sword flashed, and the vermilion bird's flame spread out. She attacked directly. Mo Tiange didn't hesitate. She waved the heaven and earth fan, and a ball of golden lightning flew out from it, turning into countless golden rays that sprinkled down like a golden rain. At the same time, the puppet wielded the Fuxing sword and slashed at the sea beast. They all hit it. The sea beast's body stiffened, but it wasn't injured at all. This beast has been attacked by aurora and hurricanes all year round, so its skin is extremely tough. Ling Yunhe came out of the boat, turned the boat back to the size of a magic weapon, and put it back into his Qianquan bag. After that, a light flashed, and a stream of light appeared in his hand. It was like a crescent moon, cold and gloomy, tangible but intangible. After advancing to the nascent soul realm, his natal magic weapon was refined again, and its appearance was very different from before. It was originally just a crescent moon-shaped jade knife, but now it turned into a cold light as if it was really moonlight. Seeing the sea beast, Ling Yunhe's eyes narrowed. Your magic weapon can actually hurt it? Hoo. This sea beast looked terrifying, but it couldn't roar. It could only make a hoo sound that sounded like it was spitting bubbles. It seemed to have just reacted. It opened its mouth, spat out a string of bubbles, and tried to bite them. The 3 of them fled in different directions and attacked separately. The vermilion bird's flame blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The golden lightning rain took advantage of every gap, and the moonlight essence was as fast as lightning. This sea beast didn't seem to know how to dodge, so it took all of them head-on. For a moment, the sea was turbulent, and huge waves were set off. Hoo, the sea beast was furious. It bared its sharp teeth and twisted crazily. Chi. As it twisted, the sea beast's pitch-black skin emitted a layer of luster. This luster was like fog and lightning, with a gorgeous brilliance, and it triggered a strange aura. Under this aura, the 3 people's spiritual aura became chaotic. This sea beast lived in the North Sea all year round. It was attacked by aurora and hurricanes, so it had a body of copper skin and iron bones. Chapter 632. Nie Wuxiang was running for her life. She knew her luck had always been bad, but she didn't expect it to be this bad. After returning from the celestial pole, she concentrated on comprehending the primordial devil great technique. Just as she got some clues, she left the closed-door meditation to participate in the Devil Cultivators trade fair, but she was targeted by Demon Monarch Yuing. She didn't know how Demon Monarch Yuing learned about the existence of the primordial devil great technique, but it was absolutely impossible for her to hand it over. Therefore, she took advantage of his unpreparedness and ran away with her secret treasure. However, he was one of the 3 great devil monarchs in Yunzhong. How could the early stage compare with the late stage? She had no choice but to think about who could help her. She didn't know many people in Yunzhong, and the 1,000 miles sound-transmitting talisman couldn't travel across the whole continent. If she hadn't met Ling Yunhe by chance, she would have fled all the way back to the celestial pole. Even if she asked Ling Yunhe to help her, she didn't dare to have too much hope. She only had a little contact with him, so who knew whether he would really run for her or not? Fortunately, Jing Xingji was in Yunzhong and received her 1,000 miles sound-transmitting talisman. If he came smoothly, the 2 of them might have a chance if they worked together. Jing Xingji, why hasn't this bitch come yet? She had been running for half a month. In order to escape, she used most of her secret treasures. If she kept running, she might as well hand over the primordial devil great technique. That being said, Nie Wuxiang didn't slow down at all. She knew too well the terror of a late-stage nascent soul cultivator and didn't want to put her fate in someone else's hands again. This was the third time Ling Yunhe had taken a restorative panacea. His spiritual aura was gradually overflowing, and the watery moonlight was released again. The moonlight was clear and misty, but it carried a cold, killing intent. The sea beast swung its tail crazily. Its body was dripping with blood, dyeing the sea red. He took a moment to look at the other two people, feeling very puzzled. These two people hadn't taken anything like restorative panacea, so why did they still look full of spiritual aura? He didn't have much time to think. The sea beast went berserk, its strength soared, and its body was covered by aurora. Ling Yunhe retreated quickly. The moonlight sprinkled down, blocking the sea beast's attack. At the same time, a white-robed figure jumped into the sea beast's open mouth and disappeared between its sharp teeth. Ling Yunhe was startled. Just as he was about to say something, he caught a glimpse of Tiange out of the corner of his eye. Only then did he realize that what he saw just now was her puppet, not her. Holding the Fuxing sword, the puppet was swallowed by the sea beast. Not long after, the sea beasts became even more berserk. For a moment, wind and waves surged, and auroras flickered. The three of them controlled their respective Dharma treasures and retreated far away. Blood flowed out of the sea beast's mouth. Then, a gleaming sword tip appeared on the sea beast's abdomen. Slash! The Fuxing sword flashed with lightning as it cut open the sea beast's abdomen. The sea beast writhed madly for a while before slowly calming down. Tiange wiped her face, then retrieved the puppet and the Fuxing sword. I finally killed him. Xi's sword light flashed and went into the sea beast's huge head. Before long, he took out a colorful ball of light that looked like countless stars moving inside. Is this a beast core? Ling Yunhe nodded and said, this beast is not an ordinary beast. Its beast core contains magnetic force and tearing force. It cannot be consumed like an ordinary beast core. She nodded and looked at him inquiringly. Fellow Daoist Ling Yunhe waved his hand. Thanks to you guys, we killed this beast. I don't want the beast core. He glanced at the sea beast and said, if possible, I want its hide. She smiled. She showed a slight smile. Please. The three of them skinned the sea beast and dismembered its body. Fellow Daoist Ling, before standing up again, Tiange looked at Ling Yunhe with a smile and reached out her hand. My crystal jade. Ling Yunhe curled his lips at her appearance. Stingy. Although he said that, he still took out the crystal jade she put on the boat and gave it back to her. Although he said he was stingy, Ling Yunhe knew dozens of crystal jades could cause a chaotic battle between nascent soul cultivators. How could he give them away for free? She was already very generous when she was willing to give him the crystal jade. A devil aura suddenly arrived, getting closer and closer to Nie Wuxiang. Nie Wuxiang didn't even dare to look back. In the past few days, she encountered countless dangers. She knew Demon Lord Moonshadow had a tracking secret skill and would catch up to her from time to time. If she hadn't stolen many of her master's secret techniques, she would have been caught by him long ago. She raised her speed to the extreme, but the devil aura behind her was still getting closer. She was anxious. Why hasn't Jing Xingji come yet? When I use up all my secret treasures, it'll be useless for him to come. With that thought in mind, she suddenly felt a strong spiritual aura fluctuation in front of her. She was delighted. There was someone. No matter who it was, the situation couldn't be worse than it was now. Nie Wuxiang took out a jade talisman surrounded by devil aura and crushed it with one finger. Her speed suddenly sped up and she flew forward. In the devil aura behind her, a figure hidden in a black cloak suddenly approached her. Little girl, do you think you're the only one with a secret technique? The voice was low and dark, and it was hard to distinguish its original tone. Demon Lord Moonshadow was still as mysterious as usual. Nie Wuxiang kept flying and said, Senior chased me for so long without using a secret technique, so it must have cost you a lot, right? How did Senior know that this is the only secret technique I have? Then try again. Demon Lord Moonshadow said, and the refined corpse beside him suddenly flew toward Nie Wuxiang. Nie Wuxiang's body flashed, and a black jade pendant blocked the refined corpse's attack. Nie Wuxiang shook her sleeves, and a strand of primordial devil chi flew out. It turned into a ray of starlight and suddenly exploded, blocking Yu Ying Devil Monarch for a moment. Just in front, hold on for a while more. With that thought in mind, Nie Wuxiang crushed another demonic talisman. 3 people? Sensing each other's aura, they also flew toward her. Nie Wuxiang prayed in her heart, hoping that they were not enemies. 2 middle stage and 1 early stage. Not Mo Qingwei and the others. Nie Wuxiang was a little disappointed. She only hoped that they wouldn't make things difficult for her. Just as she was thinking about that, her primordial spirit suddenly sensed something, and the place it sensed was just in front of her. Nie Wuxiang was delighted. Were they the helpers Ling Yunhe found? Fortunately, there were 2 middle stage and 2 early stage, so there was still hope to deal with Demon Lord Moonshadow. Nie Wuxiang rushed forward wildly. Demon Lord Moonshadow sneered behind her. Do you think these few people can help you? You're too naive. They're coming. A black dot on the horizon was getting closer and closer, followed by 2 black clouds. Ling Yunhe's spirits rose. Mo Tiange saw Nie Wuxiang at first glance and went to meet her. When she saw the person in front of her clearly, Nie Wuxiang was overjoyed. Tiange. This was the first time she called her by her name. When they met, Mo Qingwei's name wasn't there yet, only Mo Tiange. Meeting again after a long time, in a crisis, she instinctively called this name. Mo Tiange was stunned, then she smiled. Wuxiang. The 3 of them attacked Demon Lord Moonshadow, who was behind Nie Wuxiang. Qin she didn't hold back at all. He mobilized the vermilion bird's breath in his yang spiritual bead and used the sword formation vermilion bird burns the heavens. Countless sword auras converged to form a vast and mighty sea, rushing toward Demon Lord Moonshadow. Mo Tiange did the same. With a howl, an azure dragon appeared from the heaven and earth fan and spat out a golden thunderbolt, which turned into a golden curtain of rain and covered Demon Lord Moonshadow. When the 2 of them used their full strength, the cautious Ling Yunhe was no longer strong enough. A crescent moon sprinkled down clear light to meet the refined corpse. Nie Wuxiang quickly retreated behind them, grabbed a handful of devil cores, and swallowed them. The primordial devil aura on her body soared and turned into a huge black cloud. A few juniors. Demon Lord Moonshadow waved his cloak, and the demonic aura in front of him surged. The refined corpse rushed toward Nie Wuxiang. The demonic aura met the sea of swords and the golden rain. Chi, chi, chi. It was just a soft sound, but it began to swallow each other. The demonic aura was strong, so it gained the upper hand at first. However, the sea of swords and the golden rain were more tenacious. They were extinguished a little, but they kept burning, forming a corner. When the sea of swords and the golden rain began to counterattack, Demon Lord Moonshadow was shocked. His cultivation level was higher, and his magic art was more powerful, but he was strangely restrained. Whether it was the sea of swords or the golden rain, they both carried a vast and holy aura, which seemed to naturally restrain him. Demon Lord Moonshadow couldn't help but think of the azure dragon that appeared just now. Could it be that these people practiced a cultivation technique that could restrain demonic arts? He didn't have much time to think. On the other side, Qin she took out the vermilion bird bow. The vermilion bird's flame in the yang spiritual bead surged out again. As he pulled the bowstring, a flame arrow was formed. The bow was like a full moon, and the arrow shot toward the heavenly wolf. Qin she let go of the bow, and the vermilion bird arrow flew out, drawing a perfect arc and shooting toward Demon Lord Moonshadow. Demon Lord Moonshadow wanted to dodge, but he was trapped by the sea of swords and the golden rain. It was like he was in a quagmire. In this urgent situation, he used a secret technique and suddenly disappeared. It was still a soft sound, but this sound was much more powerful. Although Demon Lord Moonshadow had teleported, he was still swept by the tail wind of the vermilion bird arrow, and a large mass of demonic aura was burned. Oh! He stared at the vermilion bird bow in Qin Shi's hand, hatred in his heart. This was the vermilion bird bow that Zhuyan sect had plotted for 100,000 years. It was indeed a spiritual magic weapon with a spirit. He knew he was defeated. His original body was blocked by these two juniors, and his refined corpse was blocked by Ling Yunhe and the others. He couldn't kill them. He unfolded his cloak, rolled up the refined corpse, and tried to escape. At this moment, a dazzling light suddenly burst out from his body. His sharp intent soared into the sky, and his killing intent was threatening. A sword, cultivator's sword. Demon Lord Moon Shadow was terrified. It was fine if he was defeated by these juniors fair and square, but what was going on with this sword cultivator who suddenly appeared? He was a dignified late nascent soul cultivator, one of the 3 great devil monarchs in Yunzhong. Had he fallen to this point? This sword cultivator was stronger than all the sword cultivators he had met before. His strength didn't lie in his cultivation level, but in his sword intent. His whole body disappeared in the sword intent. Only the sword intent existed, but he wasn't. Therefore, when he restrained his killing intent, he was invisible and intangible, but when he released his killing intent, his sword intent soared into the sky. Since his attack didn't succeed, the sword cultivator retreated far away. He looked at Demon Lord Moon Shadow with a smile and shouted at the juniors, "I'm not late, am I?" Nie Wuxiang snorted from afar. "Everything is settled, Great Master Qi Lai. It's better to come at the right time than to come early." Jing Xingji shouted and said to Demon Lord Moon Shadow, "Senior, you're old. You have to accept your old age. Now, the world belongs to us young people." Demon Lord Moon Shadow snorted coldly. "You want to keep me here? You're still too young." As he spoke, he turned around, turned into a wisp of black fog, and went far away in the blink of an eye. Chapter 633. No one tried to stop Moon Shadow Devil Monarch, so he escaped easily. How could it be easy to stop a great nascent soul cultivator? If they weren't careful, he would defeat them one by one. That would be their own fault. Jing Xingji deliberately chased after her and shouted, "Senior, you have to walk carefully. Don't fall and die." Mo Tiange shook her head and said, "Are you bullying the old?" Jing Xingji smiled like a ruffian. "I've always liked to bully the old. I think you're beating a drowning dog." Nie Wuxiang gave him a dirty look. The dignified nascent soul demon monarch was classified as a drowning dog by her just like that. She was still wearing Tiansan's attire, but she didn't disguise her voice. Ling Yunhe frowned slightly. "Fellow Daoist Tiancan?" Nie Wuxiang took off her bamboo hat, revealing a delicate face. "Sorry, fellow Daoist Ling, my real name is Nie Wuxiang." Ling Yunhe looked at her real face and was a bit surprised. In the end he sighed. "What's wrong with a real or fake name? I only recognize you as fellow Daoist Qin Wei and fellow Daoist Tian." His words inexplicably made the two of them sad. Time flew. 100 years passed, and they all entered the nascent soul realm. The carefree valley of the past still seemed like yesterday. Speaking of which, among the 6 people in the carefree valley, except for the 2 who died, the remaining 4 all formed their nascent souls. Recalling the past, they really felt emotional. The 5 of them stood facing each other. Jing Xingji, who was surrounded by sword aura as if he was in a sword formation, said, "You're actually in the middle stage? Why are you so surprised?" Jing Xingji glanced at Mo Tiange. "How long has it been since Mo Qingwei formed her nascent soul? If she can reach the middle stage, why can't I?" Nie Wuxiang finally noticed and was pleasantly surprised. "Tiange, you're in the middle stage." Mo Tiange nodded with a smile. "I advanced not long ago, so I obtained a great fated chance." Oomph! Jing Xingji was extremely jealous. Every time they had a great fated chance, he always followed behind and picked up the scraps. Fortunately, White Tiger and the Sword Cave were both his. Otherwise, he would be jealous to death. "Guys," Ling Yunhe said, "this isn't a place to talk. Let's go." 2 hours later, they were sitting in the cloud-soaring crane's ship, slowly heading towards the coast. "Yu Ying Devil Lord doesn't have any accomplices, right?" Jing Xingji asked as he walked around the ship. Nie Wuxiang said, Isn't it too late for you to worry now? I've been worried for a long time, so I prepared for a while longer. Nie Wuxiang turned around and glared at him. Aren't you afraid I won't be able to hold on until you guys arrive? Jing Xingji grinned cheekily. How could you die so easily? Look at your body, you can't die even if you want to, unlucky girl. Nie Wuxiang clenched her teeth. Yeah, I'm not as awe-inspiring as you, sword, slut. Mo Tiange stared at them and smiled. This time, Nie Wuxiang was even more relaxed. She could call her by her name and joke around with Jing Xingji like this. Presumably, she'd completely broken away from Master Songfeng's shadow and obtained a new life. After chatting for a while, everyone began to reminisce about the past. Jing Xingji said he only came out after 15 years of closed-door meditation in the sword cave of Fengxi Valley to understand Wanderer Ziwei's sword intent. In the end, he said proudly that he wasn't afraid of Xianxia anymore. Xianxia just smiled. This time, he could naturally see that Jing Xingji was different from before. Originally, he was sharp and threatening, and his whole body was like an unsheathed sword. Now, his sword intent was completely restrained, but as long as he wanted, he could transform into a sword at any time. Wanderer Ziwei was indeed a genius sword cultivator. Not only did he have amazing achievements when he was alive, but he also kept all his knowledge in the sword cave after his death and passed it on. Jing Xingji kept saying that the big fated chances belonged to them, and he could only follow behind and pick up the leftovers. In fact, as a sword cultivator, neither the Yang spiritual bead nor the vermilion bird bow could compare to the sword cave of Ziwei. Moreover, he was recognized by the white tiger bead before, which was something even Fei Fei couldn't do. As for Nie Wuxiang, after returning to Yunzhong, she entered closed-door meditation to participate in the Great Primordial Devil technique. Later, for some reason, Demon Monarch Yu Ying pestered her to hand over the Great Primordial Devil technique. When Nie Wuxiang finished talking about how she was pestered by Demon Monarch Yu Ying, she frowned slightly. Strange, how did he know about the existence of the Great Primordial Devil technique? Yes, this is also something I can't figure out, Nie Wuxiang said, but no matter how I asked, he didn't reveal anything. She tapped his knuckles and said, Your devil aura is very profound, and it can't be hidden at all. Now, Yunzhong and the Celestial Pole are in contact again, so what happened in the westernmost might be spread to Yunzhong. Did Demon Monarch Yu Ying know your Master Songfeng's disciple? Master Songfeng's cultivation of the Great Primordial Devil technique wasn't a secret. Most of the high-level cultivators in the Celestial Pole knew about it, and the last time Master Songfeng appeared was in the westernmost area. Could it be Demon Monarch Yu Shuang? Jing Xingji said, Among the people who came from Yunzhong last time, only she went back. Maybe she leaked Wuxiang's situation to Demon Monarch Yu Ying. Nie Wuxiang thought for a while, then shook her head. I don't think so. Night Frost and Yu Ying are both nascent soul devil cultivators, and their strengths are almost the same. Demon Monarch Yu Ying wanted to steal the Great Primordial Devil technique because he wanted to break through the late stage and advance into the deification realm. How could Demon Monarch Night Frost give such a good opportunity to others? The Demon Monarchs didn't get along very well. If it wasn't her, how could Demon Monarch Yu Ying know about the Great Primordial Devil technique? She said, the only person in Yunzhong who cultivated the Great Primordial Devil technique was Mei Feng, the city lord of Descending Star City. He was killed by me in the Sea of Returning Ruins, and the matter about the Primordial Devil steel wasn't leaked. At this point, he suddenly paused. Yang Qingji. Mo Tiange slowly said this name. Geifeng Demon Monarch knew about the Primordial Devil steel, so he secretly sneaked into the underground palace in the Sea of Returning Ruins. In the end, he failed at the last step, and the Primordial Devil steel was obtained by Yang Qingji. Nie Wuxiang was stunned. Geifeng Demon Monarch died several decades ago, and Yang Qingji disappeared without a trace. I've never heard any news about him, Mo Tiange said. When we came out of the secret place in the Sea of Returning Ruins, we were separated from Yang Qingji. We don't know where he went. He couldn't have been caught by Demon Monarch Yu Ying, right? Nie Wuxiang raised a possibility, but after thinking about it, she denied it. That's not right. If he was caught, he wouldn't have needed to catch me. Everyone was silent, and everyone was thinking. Everyone, Ling Yunhe suddenly said, if you want to find out the reason, can you wait until later? I didn't come here for this matter. Oh, sorry. Nie Wuxiang smiled apologetically. Fellow Daoist Ling, do you have any questions? Ling Yunhe said, Fellow Daoist, what about your promise? Nie Wuxiang said without hesitation, we'll fulfill it. We'll go now. Right? Mo Tiange asked, you asked fellow Daoist Ling to pass the message, the sacrificial temple has appeared. Come quickly. What does this have to do with the sacrificial temple? Nie Wuxiang pursed her lips and smiled. In fact, I said that on purpose to make you pay attention to it. Come quickly. Mo Tiange shook her head. If we knew you were in danger, we'd naturally come as soon as possible. Nie Wuxiang was stunned, but she felt warm in her heart. She said, but it's true. Before I met Demon Monarch Yuing, I came out of closed-door meditation to participate in the Devil Cultivators trade fair and got the news. This matter hasn't been spread out yet, but we'd better hurry up. Who knows when it'll be known by others? Mo Tiange nodded. The Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple is still in Carefree Valley, right? How did you know? Nie Wuxiang was astonished. At that Devil Cultivators trade fair, I got in touch with a former elder of Starfall City and got some information from him. Only then did I find out that City Lord may obtain the primordial devil great art from Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple. Therefore, at that time, he lured us core formation cultivators together and fed us to the primordial devils he created, helping him reach the heavens in a single bound. Unexpectedly, his plan failed and the primordial devil was swallowed by me. What happened in Starfall City could be said to have changed Nie Wuxiang's life. If they weren't trapped by Mei Feng and couldn't escape, Nie Wuxiang wouldn't have swallowed the primordial devil and turned into a real devil cultivator. Mo Tiange said, every dog has its day. The primordial devil steel in your hand now belongs to Mei Feng. I guessed it. Nie Wuxiang smiled and turned to look at everyone. How about it? Everyone, it won't be a problem to go to Carefree Valley right away, right? Qin Shi, Jing Xingji, and Mo Tiange didn't need to ask. Only Ling Yunhe said, I'm ready for this trip. Nie Wuxiang smiled. That's good. But, Ling Yunhe said, since we've decided to go there immediately, can fellow Daoist Tian can tell us what kind of place it is? Nie Wuxiang hesitated for a moment, not knowing what to say. Mo Tiange said, fellow Daoist Ling, you've also been to the Vermilion Bird Sacrificial Temple, so you should know about it. Ling Yunhe frowned. The Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple you mentioned is the same place as the Vermilion Bird Sacrificial Temple? Correct. Mo Tiange nodded. Ling Yunhe pondered. There's the Vermilion Bird and the Black Tortoise. Could it be that there's also the Azure Dragon and the White Tiger? No one answered. The matter about the sacrificial temple was not only a great fated chance, but it was also related to the secret of the great chaos in the world. How could Mo Tiange easily say it? If she went to the Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple and got Ling Yunhe's fated chance, it could also be considered as repaying him for his help. Thinking up to this point, an idea came to her mind. The Black Tortoise's attribute was water. Among the four of them and their spiritual beasts, only she and Xiaofan had water spiritual roots. This fated chance wouldn't fall into Ling Yunhe's hands, right? By the way, fellow Daoist Ling, you said before that you knew about the destruction of heaven and earth. Can you tell me now? After these past few days, Ling Yunhe had completely calmed down. It was just that he'd been repressed for too long. Whether it was Juyen sect or Ling clan, they both made him extremely depressed. Now, he also had a big secret suppressed in his heart, so his mood fluctuated. He didn't really want to do anything. In fact, even if Mo Tiange really did respond, he still had to think about it. Daoists advocated the natural way, and matters of the heart also happened naturally. Feelings that were snatched from others didn't have a good beginning, nor did they have a good ending. It was a hindrance to cultivation. Now that he heard Mo Tiange's question, he said, this matter has to start from the Immortal Palace in the returning ruins sea. Chapter 634. The ice palace in the returning ruins sea had been torn apart during the destruction of the primordial era and became an independent space. According to Ling Yunhe, when it was torn apart, there were still disciples alive in the ice palace. Unfortunately, the lifespan of humans was much shorter than that of demon cultivators. Moreover, the power of tearing apart the space was so strong that it caused great damage. Only a few people survived and were eventually wiped out. As for demon beasts, because of their long lifespans and large numbers, the most powerful ones survived. In the Ice Palace, Jiuyan sect obtained many Qingkuan bags, including the belongings of the survivors, which fell into Ling Yunhe's hands. After returning from the Sea of Returning Ruins, Ling Yunhe immediately went into seclusion. It was not until he formed his nascent soul that he saw the jade slip. By then, the world had changed, and disputes arose. But Ling Yunhe didn't immediately think about that because everything in Yunzhong was peaceful, unlike the celestial pole which was in the flames of war. Until he began to travel, went to Shaoyang, searched for the current location of Yuan province, and then risked his life to discover the newly discovered continent of ghost cultivators or demon cultivators. In the past few decades, he traveled everywhere and saw the world in chaos. Only then did he think that what was recorded in the jade slip in the Ice Palace might happen again. The world was in chaos, and the human world was destroyed. The jade slip didn't describe it in detail, but he was a smart person. Based on what he saw and what he heard in the jade slip, he already had a vague idea. Returning to Jiuyan sect, Ling Yunhe plunged into the library and flipped through the ancient books collected by the sect. Gradually, he discovered this secret. As the number one clan in Yunzhong, Jian clan had a very deep foundation in Yunzhong. They had an even more extensive collection of books. Since the immemorial age, there were not many books left, but there were always some clues. Ling Yunhe connected the dots and came to this conclusion. Now that all the continents were in conflict, the world might be in chaos, and the end of the chaos would be the destruction of heaven and earth. However, when he reported this conclusion to his elders, it didn't attract much attention. Immortal Yuanmu thought that these words were not enough to prove that this was the reason for the destruction of the primeval age. Even if it was, the world might not be in chaos. Cultivators of human, demon, and ghost paths were enemies. In the past 100,000 years, there had only been temporary peace, not eternal reconciliation. Ling Yunhe knew what Immortal Yuanmu said made sense, but he was still worried. He had been traveling around all these years and had a deeper understanding of the chaotic situation in the world. However, no one listened to him, so he could only suppress it in his heart. Mo Tiange couldn't help but think that compared to Ling Yunhe, wasn't she much luckier? The Lord Daoists of Xianxia school trusted her unconditionally and even used the whole school's power to help her. If it weren't for that, she would have ended up like Ling Yunhe today. Even if she had a lot on her mind, she could only rely on herself. Having said that, Ling Yunhe looked at them and said cautiously, "Fellow Daoist Mo, since you asked that question, you must know more than I do. I don't have any other request. I just want to ask you, if it's about this matter, please allow me to be your companion." Nie Wuxiang and Jing Xingji were confused. Jing Xingji said, "How long has it been since we last met? Are you two up to something again?" Nie Wuxiang kicked him. "Be quiet. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak." Mo Tiange and Qin Shi glanced at each other. Qin Shi said through voice transmission, "It's not necessarily impossible. This isn't just about the two of us." Mo Tiange nodded to show that she understood. The world was in chaos and the end of the world was coming. This was the world's matter. They didn't make it public because it hadn't been confirmed yet. Under uncertain circumstances, rashly announcing this matter would inevitably cause panic. Besides, all the clues were in their hands. They wouldn't be reconciled if they didn't find out the truth themselves. However, they weren't great enough to shoulder the fate of the world alone. In fact, even if fellow Daoist Ling didn't say it, I still had to tell you about this matter. Mo Tiange sighed. On the path to immortality, although I've met many people, only a few of them are trustworthy. If fellow Daoist Ling is willing to travel with me, I'd be more than happy to do so. As she said that, her gaze fell on Jing Xingji and Nie Wuxiang. The same goes for you. Tiange. Nie Wuxiang couldn't help but ask upon seeing her serious expression, "Is what fellow Daoist Ling said true?" Mo Tiange nodded and slowly told them about what happened to the 6 Dao palaces at the bottom of the Eastern Sea not long ago. She also didn't conceal the matter about the 5 spirits' sacrificial temple anymore. These things were no longer fated chances for the two of them. Instead, they were responsibilities related to life and death. Nie Wuxiang and Jing Xingji were shocked speechless, but Ling Yunhe heaved a sigh of relief. What Mo Tiange said confirmed his conjecture and put his heart at ease. At the same time, it also let him know that he wasn't alone and that he had a companion. "Sure enough, I'll do my best." After a long time, Jing Xingji said, "If what you said is true, there's no need to say anything else. I'll definitely help." This kind of matter wasn't the responsibility of just 1 or 2 people. Saving people was equivalent to saving oneself. He was selfish, but he wasn't stupid. Nie Wuxiang also didn't hesitate. "Me too. Would I lie to you about this kind of matter?" She paused for a moment, then said to Jing Xingji, "After we come out of Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple, you'd better go back to Gujin sect. This is a critical moment, so don't worry about your face. We need Gujin sect's help. Senior Yuanying will definitely believe you." Jing Xingji glared at him and said very indifferently, "Who cares about my face?" She ignored him and swept his gaze over everyone. "If you don't have any objections, then it's settled. Whether it's to save ourselves or to protect the things we value, we'll advance and retreat together. We'll find the 5 spirits' sacrificial temple and find out the truth of the matter." The others didn't have any objections, so this matter was decided in a seemingly hasty manner. The magic weapon ship sailed slowly for a few more days before it finally reached the north coast. They didn't set out immediately. Instead, they took advantage of this time to recuperate, cultivate, refine magic weapons, and so on. These days, Nie Wuxiang had been crazily chased by Moon Shadow Devil Monarch. Although she wasn't seriously injured, minor injuries were unavoidable. It took her half a month to prepare properly. Later, everyone disembarked. Ling Yunhe put the magic weapon ship away, and the 5 of them rushed to Carefree Valley. Nascent soul cultivators were extremely fast, and Carefree Valley wasn't far from here. In just one day, the 5 of them arrived at Jialing Mountain. However, the scene in Jialing Mountain shocked them. On the periphery of Jialing Mountain sat many scattered cultivators, ranging from the foundation building realm to the core formation realm. Nie Wuxiang was dumbfounded. "Is this a market square?" Ling Yunhe frowned and called over a foundation-building cultivator in Zhuoyan sect's disciple uniform. When that foundation-building cultivator saw Ling Yunhe, he was extremely nervous. "Disciple Ji Tian greets Grand Supreme Elder. Dispense with the formalities." Ling Yunhe didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Why are there so many cultivators here? What are they doing here?" Ji Tian said respectfully, reporting to Grand Supreme Elder, "They're all here to look for treasures in Carefree Valley." "Look for treasures?" Ling Yunhe was even more surprised. Carefree Valley was quite famous in Yunzhong, but its location was rather hidden, so not everyone could find it. How could it be like now, where it practically became a market square? "Grand Supreme Elder, there's something you don't know," Ji Tian reported. Not long ago, a treasure map appeared in every city's market square, and the location of Carefree Valley was marked on the map. Now, both One Leaf Island and North Pole Island have been abandoned, and resources are scarce. Therefore, although everyone thinks it might not be true, they still came to take a look. Ling Yunhe glanced at Nie Wuxiang. Upon seeing her bewildered expression, he thought for a moment, then took out a small bag from his robe and said to Ji Tian, "Whether it's true or not, Carefree Valley isn't a place foundation-building cultivators can come to. Take this and distribute it to your companions. You should leave early." Ji Tian was overjoyed and said repeatedly, "Thank you, Grand Supreme Elder. Thank you, Grand Supreme Elder." With a nascent soul cultivator's gift, why would they take the risk to enter Carefree Valley? Naturally, they would leave early. Seeing Ling Yunhe's behavior, Mo Tiange felt that he had indeed changed a lot. His way of doing things was very different from before. After Ji Tian left, everyone didn't speak for a long time, nor did they immediately enter Carefree Valley. There was obviously something wrong with this. Carefree Valley had existed for so many years, and One Leaf Island and North Pole Island had also been deserted for several decades. How could it be so coincidental that the map of Carefree Valley appeared just as they were about to enter it? After a long time, Ling Yunhe asked slowly, "Fellow Daoist Tianan, did the person who gave you the information leak this information?" Nie Wuxiang shook her head and denied it. "Impossible. He couldn't have leaked it. I naturally used some tricks to let him go." Ling Yunhe nodded and said nothing more. That elder from Starfall City was only in the core formation realm. With the tricks of a nascent soul cultivator, it wasn't difficult to make him never leak this information again. Then who in the world leaked the location of Carefree Valley? Was his target Carefree Valley or the Black Tortoise Temple in Carefree Valley? Emo Tienga asked. She was asking them but also asking herself. In any case, let's go inside first. Ling Yunhe took the lead and walked towards the entrance of Carefree Valley. After passing through the rugged rocks and arriving at the ancient tree at the entrance, Ling Yunhe took out the soul restraining bead and easily broke the restriction on the entrance. Emo Tienga noticed that the soul restraining bead in Ling Yunhe's hand was shining brightly and was a lot purer than the one Ling clan made, so she knew this was the soul restraining bead left behind by Saint Geizhen. Although this soul restraining bead was a precious treasure passed down in Juyin sect for many years, it already recognized Ling Yunhe as its master, so there was no point in keeping it in the sect, so it belonged to Ling Yunhe. Upon seeing them coming, the surrounding cultivators kept paying attention to them but didn't dare to come forward and disturb them. Now that they saw them breaking the restriction on the entrance, their eyes all lit up. Ling Yunhe turned around and said to the cultivators in a clear voice, "Everyone, I don't need to tell you what kind of place Carefree Valley is. We won't force you to enter the valley, but you'd better listen carefully. Foundation building cultivators must not enter the valley, otherwise, don't even think about coming out alive. Core formation cultivators should only enter the valley with 6 or more people. No Juyin sect disciple is allowed to enter the valley, no matter what your cultivation level is. Do you understand?" After a few breaths of silence, the remaining Juyin sect disciples answered in unison, "Yes, we'll obey Grand Supreme Elder's order." He was once the sect head of Juyin sect and was also the person the Juyin sect's founder recognized as the master of the holy relic. His reputation in Juyin sect far surpassed that of ordinary nascent soul elders. Although these Juyin sect disciples were somewhat unwilling, none of them disobeyed. "Let's go," Ling Yunhe said, then turned around and entered the valley first. Chapter 635. The inside of Carefree Valley was still the same as before. Spiritual aura, devil aura, and filthy aura mixed together. Every step they took was filled with danger. But for nascent soul cultivators, it was just a piece of cake. The 5 of them easily entered the valley. Emo Tienga couldn't help but recall the strange spiritual beast, Ling Yunhe, when she saw the crack at the entrance of the valley. "Fellow Daoist Ling, where's your spiritual beast, Little Black?" Ling Yunhe searched his spiritual beast bag and released Vulture Little Black. "Here." Since Little Black hadn't advanced to the 8th rank, Little Black basically couldn't help them, so Ling Yunhe only looked at it for a moment before putting it away. After looking at Little Black, Nie Wuxiang suddenly said, "Tienga, I remember you said the first person you saw practicing the primordial devil technique produced dead aura?" She was talking about Ren Yufeng. Emo Tienga nodded. "Yes." Nie Wuxiang said, "My master also started practicing the primordial devil technique a long time ago. The reason why he ended up like this was because the cultivation technique he comprehended wasn't good enough." Emo Tienga recalled Master Song Feng's ghostly appearance. How similar was he to Ren Yufeng? Could it be that the primordial devil technique really had a path leading to dead aura? As she thought about this, she saw Nie Wuxiang take out a shiny black stone from her robe and throw it to the side of the crack next to the dead aura crack. Magic crystal? Emo Tienga recognized it at a glance. It was the magic crystal Mei Feng used to control them when they fell into his trap. It was said to be the main material of the corpse soul technique. It could absorb people's energy and control their souls, turning them into walking corpses without them knowing. It was a first-class evil item. Nie Wuxiang said, "Look, this thing can really absorb dead aura." Everyone saw black dead aura being slowly absorbed into the magic crystal, making it look fuller and brighter. "What do you want dead aura for?" Immortal asked. Nie Wuxiang smiled. "It's a secret." After the magic crystal finished absorbing the dead aura, they were about to enter the valley. Immortal thought for a moment, then released little Feng and Feifei from the spiritual beast bracelet. The biggest use of the spiritual beast bracelet given by Devil Monarch Night Frost was that she could carry several spiritual beasts with her without worrying about them delaying her cultivation, so Xianxia also put little Feng in her spiritual beast bracelet. When the three of them saw Xiao Feng, their eyes widened, especially Ling Yunhe. Jing Xingji and Nie Wuxiang were more or less used to it. From time to time, the two of them would come up with something that would make people envious, jealous, and hate them. "Huh." Nie Wuxiang fixed her gaze on Feifei. "This doesn't seem to have an 8th rank." Immortal said, "This is my spiritual beast, Feifei. You've all seen him before. He's only in the 7th rank, and he can transform because of other reasons." Feifei casually cupped his hands at them and stood to the side. Jing Xingji stared at him for a good while, then suddenly said, "So the remaining white tiger's breath was subdued by you?" When Feifei heard this, she turned her head and looked at him seriously for a while. Then she suddenly realized, "So you're the person that the pearl of the white tiger recognized as its master. You've really lucked out." Both of them had the aura of the white tiger on them at the same time, so it was very easy to sense them. Jing Xingji curled his lips. "What a rude child. No matter what, I'm from the same generation as Qin Shoujing. Do you know that you have to address him as martial uncle?" "Oomph." Feifei turned her head. "Without me, would you have the pearl of the white tiger?" "Without me, you would have the pearl of the white tiger." Feifei was speechless and retreated in defeat. The others laughed. Little Feng saluted them. Little Feng greets fellow Daoists. Although she was Qin Shi's spiritual beast, she was also an 8th-rank demonic beast cultivator. In front of nascent soul cultivators, calling them fellow Daoist was enough. After exchanging greetings, the group of 5 people and 2 demonic beasts set out again. Feifei lead the way. Feifei was the one who discovered the Black Tortoise sacrificial temple, so Immortal ordered it without any politeness. Feifei didn't object. Although it had a bad temper and was stingy, it wouldn't refuse work that needed to be done. After taking a moment to identify the direction, they picked a direction to go. Compared to their trip to Carefree Valley 100 years ago, their lineup this time could be said to be gorgeous. All kinds of obstacles on the way weren't a problem at all. Soon, they arrived at the place where the 3 giant apes appeared. "Follow me." Feifei snapped its fingers, picked a strange angle, and drilled into the bottom of the rocks between the trees. For this reason, it even deliberately revealed its true form. After walking for a while and seeing that it was getting harder and harder to walk, Jing Xingji couldn't help but ask, "You're not deliberately retaliating against us, are you?" Feifei rolled its eyes. "I'm free." Jing Xingji still wanted to say something, but the two of them suddenly stopped at the same time. "There's a situation." The 5 people and 2 demonic beasts stopped in their spots. Among them, Jing Xingji was also in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. Sword cultivators focused on cultivating a single sword, so their power was greater. Correspondingly, they didn't cultivate much divine sense and didn't have any special secret techniques, so their warning ability was inferior to that of traditional Dharma cultivators. After a while, Jing Xingji also uttered an "huh," followed by Nie Wuxiang and Ling Yunhe. "Why are there so many people?" Ling Yunhe was extremely astonished. Everyone looked at each other. Their divine senses clearly sensed that many nascent soul cultivators were coming this way. Inside Carefree Valley, the auras were mixed, so they couldn't sense far. However, as nascent soul cultivators, they couldn't be wrong about this. It wouldn't be strange if there were only core formation cultivators. The spiritual plants and wondrous things in Carefree Valley were extremely attractive to core formation cultivators, But if there were nascent soul cultivators, Carefree Valley basically wouldn't be in any danger. If there was a need, it was enough for them to come alone. There was no need to invite helpers, let alone so many people. You guys find a place to wait for me. I'll go take a look. Ling Yunhe made this decision in just a moment. The others looked at each other, then nodded in agreement. The four of them more or less had enemies in Yunzhong, especially Mo Tiange and Qin Shi. They had offended countless nascent soul cultivators during their trip to Sea of Returning Ruins, and every one of them was an influential figure in Yunzhong. Only Ling Yunhe, as a native of Yunzhong, had a wide network and was quite popular, so the cultivators in Yunzhong would more or less give him face. Ling Yunhe made some preparations. He gently waved the moonlight essence he was holding in his hand, scattering it into countless fragments that entered his sleeve. A lot of flowing moonlight essence then appeared on his cuff. Then he followed his original path and went to the entrance of the inner valley. Before long, Ling Yunhe stopped in front of the big tree where he rested when he first entered Carefree Valley. He had already seen the first person. He was wearing a black cloak and was surrounded by devil aura. Next to him was a refined corpse. It was Demon Monarch Moon Shadow from the North Sea not long ago. Ling Yunhe narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be that the leak of Carefree Valley this time was caused by Demon Monarch Moon Shadow? They stayed on the North Sea coast for more than half a month, so it was possible. However, what did Demon Monarch Moon Shadow see? Why did he have to make life difficult for them? After Demon Monarch Moon Shadow, there were several cultivators in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, including devil cultivators and Dao cultivators. For example, Nan Guitian from the Dawning Pill sect, Daoist Ru Yi from the Five Elements Valley, and a few nascent soul realm cultivators from the Juyan sect. Following them were Demon Monarch Night Frost, Supremacy Xuxiang, Han Shizhi, Juwu, Old Donkey Ma, and others. Finally, there was a skinny young man dressed in black. A ghost-faced banner floated behind him, and the devil aura around him was faint. If not for his shocking aura, he did not look like a devil cultivator at all. Ling Yunhe recognized them one by one. As he was once the sect master of the Juyan sect, he basically knew all of them. The last one was Yang Qingji. Back then, during the change in the Returning Ruin Sea, Guifang Demon Monarch died, and Yang Qingji disappeared. Guifang City was occupied by another devil cultivator in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. A few decades later, Yang Qingji appeared again. He had already formed a devil infant and advanced to the nascent soul realm. Seeing Yang Qingji appear, the practitioners in the cloud all thought that he would go to take back Guifang City. Unexpectedly, Yang Qingji returned to Guifang City, but he did not take back the position of the city master. Instead, he asked to take back his personal belongings. How shocking was the inheritance of a devil cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. The new Guifang City master naturally would not agree. He was an experienced nascent soul realm cultivator, which was higher than Yang Qingji by a small realm. Moreover, he controlled Guifang City, so he had nothing to fear. Under such circumstances, Yang Qingji could only choose to take action. With a wave of the ghost-faced banner, the flag of Guifang City automatically submitted to him. With the appearance of the Heavenly Demon Tower, the middle-stage devil cultivator admitted defeat without much action. He could not defeat the items of the demon venerable. With the difference in realm, he could only comfort himself in this way and admit defeat. It was just going to Guifang City. No matter how precious the items were, they were not as important as his life. However, Yang Qingji did not take back Guifang City as everyone thought. Instead, he did as he said at the beginning. He took back his personal belongings and left Guifang City again. The new Guifang City master was overjoyed. In the end, because of this defeat, he lost face. Not long after, he was defeated by another middle-stage devil cultivator, and Guifang City changed hands again. And Yang Qingji did not care about all these. He left Guifang City and disappeared. And now, Yang Qingji actually appeared here. Ling Yunhe's gaze froze. He stood under the tree and did not move. All the nascent soul realm cultivators stopped under the tree and gathered silently. The first to walk out of the line was a cultivator from Juyan sect. He said, "Junior brother Ling, why are you here?" Ling Yunhe nodded at this person and said, "Senior brother Yuan, I was entrusted by someone to come here to settle a karma. What are you guys doing?" This senior brother Yuan was a middle-stage nascent soul realm cultivator. He looked like he was in his 30s. He said, "We received news that there is an ancient sacrificial temple in Carefree Valley, so we came to take a look." Ling Yunhe paused when he heard that, and his gaze slowly shifted to Demon Monarch Yuing. "Did Senior Yuing say that?" Senior brother Yuan nodded. "Yes." Ling Yunhe smiled and raised his voice. "Senior Yuing, after we parted at the North Sea, although you were defeated, it was normal for the 5 of us to team up. Senior, you don't have to be so petty, right?" He said this deliberately for the others to hear. As expected, when they heard that, all the cultivators shifted their gaze to Demon Monarch Yuing. They all knew Ling Yunhe's background. He had only formed his nascent soul for a few decades, and his cultivation had just stabilized. He said that the 5 of them would team up so calmly. Presumably, his companion's cultivation would not be too high. Demon Monarch Yuing actually lost to such a person? Everyone found it unbelievable. Demon Monarch Yuing was one of the 3 great demon monarchs in Yunzhong. Besides his cultivation, his strength was also top-notch. Humph! Under the cloak, Demon Monarch Yuing's voice was still very steady. "Don't talk so fast. Ling family's boy, we are all here for the treasure today. It is useless for you to say all this." "Why is it useless?" Ling Yunhe's smile was very perfect. "If not for the battle at the North Sea, I'm afraid Senior would still be chasing after fellow Daoist Tianken to snatch the primordial demon great technique. Why would you appear here?" Just as Ling Yunhe finished speaking, Yang Qingji, who was the last to leave, suddenly looked at them with a flash in his eyes. Chapter 636. Ling Yunhe deliberately changed the topic to the North Sea. The others weren't stupid. They didn't make things difficult for Moon Shadow Demon Lord, nor did they ask Ling Yunhe. They just watched from the sidelines. After the incident in the Sea of Returning Ruins, although Jiuyan's sect didn't announce the loss of the Vermilion Bird Bough, it quickly spread throughout Yunzhong. Almost all high-level cultivators knew about it. At that time, Master Daoist Yuanmu and the others guessed that Huayan Temple and Yu Mountain Academy most likely knew about the existence of the sacrificial temple. Moreover, they had been planning for so many years, so the matter was leaked. However, it was meaningless to pursue this matter. The Vermilion Bird Bough was gone, so Jiuyan's sect didn't say anything. However, the Vermilion Bird Sacrificial Temple, the Divine Beast Bough, and the psychic magic weapon had left a deep impression on many nascent soul cultivators, making them restless. Therefore, when they heard that there might be a sacrificial temple here, some of them came. They were not afraid that this was fake. With so many people, no one would be able to set up a trap to catch them all in one fell swoop. And the current situation was that the Moon Shadow Demon Lord was not satisfied and was purposely causing trouble for Ling Yunhe and the others. "Junior Martial Brother Ling, what do you mean?" Senior Martial Brother Yuan frowned and asked slowly. Ling Yunhe stared at him and said softly, "Senior Martial Brother Yuan, let's talk about it when we get back to the sect." Senior Martial Brother Yuan paused for a moment and finally nodded. Ling Yunhe knew that the sect was very dissatisfied with him for going with them without telling them. Although Mo Tiange caused a big disturbance in Yunzhong, the only people she really offended and suffered was Jiuyan's sect. After losing the Vermilion Bird Bough, if Master Daoist Yuanmu wasn't calm enough, he would have rushed to the Celestial Pole to fight with them when he learned they were cultivators from Xianqing School in the Celestial Pole. This time, they actually learned from others that Ling Yunhe went with them privately. This was simply a slap in the face. Therefore, Senior Martial Brother Yuan and the others came without notifying Ling Yunhe. For one thing, they didn't want to let go of this opportunity. For another, they wanted to warn Ling Yunhe not to act recklessly. Ling Yunhe was a smart man. As soon as he saw Senior Martial Brother Yuan and heard his words, he knew why they came, so he just said they would talk about it when they got back to the sect. This meant he knew what he was doing and didn't forget the sect. Of course, Senior Brother Yuan and the others wouldn't let others laugh at them for nothing. When they heard this, they temporarily let it go. The Moon Shadow Demon Lord snorted coldly and said, "It's up to you whether you believe it or not. It's up to you whether you want to go or not." He had no intention of explaining at all. He knew that he didn't need to explain at all. As long as these people had this thought in their hearts, it was enough. Moreover, when he released the news, he made it clear that he was here to cause trouble. Just as he finished speaking, Yang Qingji, who was at the very back, strode forward, staring at him as he asked, "Elder Yuing, what do you want the great prime devil art for?" Although Yang Qingji was an early-stage nascent soul cultivator, none of the cultivators in Yunzhong dared to treat him as an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. He had the Heavenly Devil Tower, which was the sacred item of the Devil Lord. Even an ordinary mid-stage nascent soul cultivator was defeated by him. Yet, he was able to do it as if it was nothing. The Moon Shadow Demon Master said indifferently, "I didn't snatch anything from your Greifang city. I don't have to account to you, do I?" "Naturally, Elder doesn't have to account to me." Yang Qingji's face was pale and thin, but his momentum became fiercer. "Junior is just worried that Senior might have misunderstood something and wasted your efforts. You don't have to worry about that." Under the cloak, the Moon Shadow Demon Master's expression couldn't be seen clearly, but his tone was mocking. "Fellow Daoist Ling," Danxia Sex Nenguitian said with a smile, "where are your companions?" If they weren't enemies, Ling Yunhe would have applauded him for asking this question. When they came here, they didn't hide their whereabouts at all, so the cultivators outside Carefree Valley all saw who his companions were. Once they heard what he said, they immediately knew who he was asking about. Nie Wuxiang and Jing Xingji aside, Mo Tiange and Qin Shi were very famous in Yunzhong. During their trip to returning Ruin Sea, they cheated Juyen sect, and when they came out, the heavenly tribulation caused the destruction of One Leaf Island. Perhaps the changes in heaven and earth afterward were also related to them. If one were to ask the nascent soul cultivators in Yunzhong who they hated the most, apart from Juyen sect, probably no one would say the two of them. However, if one were to ask who they hated the most, they would firmly occupy the top of the list. Apart from robbing Juyen sect's things, these two calamities indeed didn't do anything too excessive, but their existence was simply a disaster in Yunzhong. Fine, in any case, everything was irredeemable, and they were disciples of a large sect in the Celestial Pole, so they didn't feel like making a fuss about it. But why did they come to Yunzhong? After robbing Juyen sect's Vermilion Bird Bow, did they also want to rob something from Black Tortoise Sacrificial Temple? It was fine if they didn't know, but now that they knew, how could they let go of this possibility? Their current mentality was just like what old Donkey Ma said: how could we let those two juniors take away our Yunzhong's things? In any case, they didn't have to pay to go and take a look. Therefore, Nanguitian's words were very popular. Everyone wanted to ask Ling Yunhe, whose side are you on? Could it be that you're deliberately befriending them and waiting for an opportunity to take revenge for the Vermilion Bird Bow? Ling Yunhe didn't answer this question. He just nodded at Nanguitian and said loudly, "Fellow Daoists, no matter why you're here, this Carefree Valley doesn't belong to my family. I don't have the right to stop you. Please do whatever you want to do." As soon as he finished speaking, someone shouted, "Ling Yunhe, what do you mean by that? Did you really form an alliance with those people in the Celestial Pole to rob Yunzhong's things?" Ling Yunhe's eyes turned cold as he looked directly at that cultivator. This was a devil cultivator with a rather unfamiliar face. His cultivation level was also average, as if he had just advanced. However, his expression was arrogant, and he really didn't look like an ordinary devil cultivator. For him to suddenly ask such a question at this time and place, it was unknown whether someone had instructed him to do so. He put on a fake smile and said, "I've said before that I'm here on someone's request to settle a karma. All of you are top-notch cultivators in the human world, so I don't need to say anything to know how serious it is to bear karma for no reason. What Celestial Pole, Yunzhong? I'm too small to bear such a big hat. Even so, why didn't you even inform your own sect? You're obviously up to no good." Ling Yunhe raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Your Excellency, may I know your great name?" The devil cultivator's aura weakened when he heard that, but he shouted again, "What do you mean? Are you looking for an opportunity to take revenge?" Nothing? Ling Yunhe said slowly, it's just that your excellency was so enthusiastic that I almost thought you were a descendant of Jian sect who was stranded outside. Don't talk nonsense. The person said angrily, your behavior is strange, so why can't I ask? I can ask, but… Ling Yunhe's expression turned cold. What's your excellency's identity? What right do you have to ask about my Jian sect? Are you trying to use this to sow discord? There were no fools among the nascent soul cultivators. Once he heard Ling Yunhe's words, the devil cultivator shut up. He finally knew that being a sect master was better than him. If he continued talking, he wouldn't gain anything other than losing face. Everyone, senior martial brother Yuan stepped forward at the right time. Outsiders don't need to worry about Jian sect's matters. No matter what my junior martial brother Ling did, he didn't do anything that violated morality. An ownerless treasure belongs to those who are capable. If you want to fight for it, junior martial brother Ling didn't stop you. If you want to fight for it, please go ahead. However, if you try to sow discord, don't blame Jian sect for being impolite. When he said the last sentence, senior martial brother Yuan revealed a murderous aura. Even though none of the Jian sect cultivators present had a late nascent soul cultivation base, no one dared to belittle his words. For the past tens of thousands of years, Jian sect had always been a big shot in Yunzhong. Its strength far surpassed the other sections. Putting everything else aside, perfected Yunmu was still holding the fort in the sect. Amidst the silence, old Donkey Ma suddenly laughed softly. His chrysanthemum-like old face scrunched up into a ball as he said in a gentle voice, "Fellow Daoists, what are you waiting for here? The matter of fighting for the treasure naturally depends on your own means." The atmosphere relaxed. Supremacy Su Xiang's loud voice rang out as well. That's right. So much nonsense and a waste of time. If you want to leave, leave quickly. This time, the late nascent soul cultivators who came were only Demon Lord Yu Ying, Demon Lord Night Frost, Old Donkey Ma, and Supremacy Su Xiang. This time, it was different from the Sea of Returning Ruins. It was only Demon Lord Yu Ying's one-sided statement. It was already good enough that so many late nascent soul cultivators came. Yu Mountain Academy and Huayan Temple only sent Han Shizhi and Jiawu. More than 50 years had passed since the Sea of Returning Ruins. With the power of the Holy Relic and the harvest from the Sea of Returning Ruins, the 5 people who were recognized by the Holy Relic entered the nascent soul realm one after another. First, it was Han Shizhi and Ling Yunhe. Then, it was Mo Tiange and Yang Qingji. Jiawu's cultivation level was slightly lower, but not long ago, he also successfully advanced to the nascent soul realm. The age at which they advanced to the nascent soul realm was astonishing. Aside from Han Shizhi, who was slightly older, the others were all less than 300 years old. In the past, this could be considered shocking. Their strength was also astonishing. Aside from Wu Minglu, the other 4 were all top-grade magic weapons. Yang Qingji easily defeated a middle-stage nascent soul cultivator with the help of Heavenly Devil Tower was a good example. As for Han Shizhi, although Wu Minglu wasn't originally a magic weapon, his cultivation technique was more useful than a magic weapon. In addition, he had an extraordinary comprehension ability and was a first-class genius among Confucian cultivators. After Wu Minglu turned into his own, his progress was astonishing. He was only one step away from advancing to the middle stage. Wu Minglu was also refined into a magic weapon by him, which was no different from other holy relic. "Olju, let's go," Supremacy Su Xiang urged impatiently. Demon Lord Yu Ying was very unhappy that his name was called Olju. "What does it have to do with me? I didn't invite you here." "Oh, why are you so petty? No matter what, we've been friends for more than 1,000 years. Leaving aside the messy entanglement, Senior Martial Brother Yuan whispered to Ling Yunhe, "Junior Martial Brother Ling, aren't you coming with us?" Ling Yunhe replied apologetically, "Senior Martial Brother Yuan, I'm sorry. What I said just now was the truth. After I settle this karma, I'll return to the sect and explain everything to you." Senior Martial Brother Yuan nodded and didn't say anything else. "Be careful. Right after he said that, he led the other Juyin sect cultivators and left with Demon Lord Yuing. Ling Yunhe stood there for a while before he turned around and left alone. Chapter 637. Ling Yunhe restrained his breath and hid his tracks, then walked through the rubble. There were so many people here, and some of them wanted to use him to find Mo Tiange and the others. He had to be careful and get rid of the people following him. The cloud-soaring crane weaved left and right, moving forward and backward. The terrain of the carefree valley was complicated. Coupled with the fact that the cloud-soaring crane deliberately hid its tracks, it did not take long to shake off the people who were secretly following it. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a breath approaching and someone said, "Fellow Daoist Ling, wait." He was familiar with this voice. Ling Yunhe turned around in surprise and saw Yang Qingji coming out of the rubble. Yang Qingji took some time to find Ling Yunhe's position and slowly walked towards him, his face still expressionless. "Fellow Daoist Yang?" Ling Yunhe frowned slightly. Yang Qingji nodded. "Fellow Daoist Ling, are you going to meet with fellow Daoist Tian Can and fellow Daoist Mo?" Ling Yunhe didn't need to hide this, so he said, "Yes. What can I do for you, fellow Daoist Yang?" "Take me there," Yang Qingji said. Ling Yunhe was stunned. Yang Qingji was with Mo Tiange and the others during the 20 years when the palace was closed in the returning ruined sea. This wasn't a secret. They must have gone through trials and tribulations together, so they must be friends. However, he just took him there without saying goodbye. "Fellow Daoist Ling, you can ask them. If they don't agree, I won't force them." Ling Yunhe thought for a moment, then took out a summoning talisman from his robe, said a few words, and sent it. Before long, the summoning talisman came back with their reply, "Bring him there." "Let's go," he said. They agreed. Before long, Ling Yunhe appeared in front of the four people with Yang Qingji. Compared to before, Yang Qingji didn't look like a devil cultivator at all. His whole body was covered with condensed but well-concealed devil aura. His youthful face was delicate and handsome, but he was pale and thin. People who didn't know him would only think he was a young man who just entered the devil path, not a nascent soul devil cultivator. They greeted each other and introduced little Feng and Feifei. Yang Qingji didn't say any polite words and went straight to the point. "It'll be very difficult for you to go back safely." Mo Tiange was stunned and asked, "Fellow Daoist Yang, what do you mean?" Yang Qingji said nothing and turned to look at Ling Yunhe. Ling Yunhe smiled bitterly and described what had happened earlier. He said, "They are hostile to me. Even the Juyin sect does not believe me." On the surface, the Juyin sect had temporarily given up on questioning him. However, the person they had sent out was Senior Brother Yuan. This spoke volumes. This Senior Brother Yuan was a clansman of perfected Yuanmo. Mo Tiange heaved a sigh. "Fellow Daoist Ling, I've implicated you." Ling Yunhe shook his head and said calmly, "This is my own choice." He did not betray the Juyin sect. It was just that the Juyin sect could not understand him for now. "What about you? Fellow Daoist Yang, why are you looking for us?" She didn't finish his sentence. The corners of Yang Qingji's mouth curled up, and it looked like he was smiling. "Since I came to find you, I'm naturally on your side." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Although the five of them were quite strong when they teamed up, they were nothing in front of so many nascent soul cultivators. Yang Qingji actually wanted to join them under such circumstances? "Compared to them, I trust you more." Yang Qingji said, "In more than 20 years in the Sea of Returning Ruins, I was the weakest, but I was able to escape safely. I can see that you are all people who keep your word. If not, I wouldn't have come to join in the fun." "Then what does fellow Daoist Yang want?" She asked again. Yang Qingji's gaze fell on Nie Wuxiang. "I want to know where the primordial devil great technique came from." Nie Wuxiang's eyes moved, but she didn't say anything. She could see that Yang Qingji was very insistent. The five of them simply expressed their opinions. Jing Xingji and Qin Shi reserved their opinions, while Mo Tiange, Nie Wuxiang, and Ling Yunhe agreed and accepted Yang Qingji into their group. "Fellow Daoist Yang, there's something I have to tell you first." The primordial devil stone tablet in the Black Tortoise Temple is probably the one in Wuxiang's hand. If you want to use it to search for the origin of the primordial devil great technique, you might as well exchange research with Wuxiang. If you go to the Black Tortoise Temple, you might return empty-handed, Mo Tiange said seriously. Yang Qingji's expression didn't change. If that's the case, I won't ask for much. Just like that, a new alliance was formed. Everyone laid out the situation and talked about it. Among these cultivators, Devil Monarch Knight Frost is old friends with us, and there's nothing in the temple that interests him, so he'll probably give us face. As for Wuxiang, he's not the type to argue. Years ago, I killed his junior martial brother, but he can also distinguish right from wrong. These two people basically won't become enemies. Devil Monarch Moon Shadow and Han Shizhi, needless to say, they have a grudge against us, so they probably won't let it go easily. As for Nan Guitian and Old Donkey Ma, they're all opportunists. It's fine if there's no conflict of interest, but if there's a conflict of interest, they probably won't hesitate to turn hostile. Mo Tiange counted with her fingers according to the list Ling Yunhe gave her. No matter how she counted, most of them were enemies. Yang Qingji's expression was still cold. It's already not bad. In the past few decades, your cultivation levels have improved greatly. With the 6 of us working together, unless 2 or more late-stage nascent soul cultivators join hands, the others won't be a problem. Yang Qingji appeared very confident. He believed that with his strength and the Heavenly Devil Tower, he could suppress ordinary middle-stage nascent soul cultivators. He knew the strength of Mo Tiange, Qin Shi, and Jing Xingji. Back then, when Qin Shi and Jing Xingji joined hands, they could fight against late-stage nascent soul cultivators, let alone now that Jing Xingji and Mo Tiange had advanced to the middle stage. As for Nie Wuxiang, although this was the first time they met after she formed her nascent soul, he knew how powerful the primordial devil great technique was. There was also Ling Yunhe. He was a genius disciple of Juyen's sect, and he also had the soul-restricting bead. If he went all out, he wouldn't be much weaker than Mo Tiange. If they couldn't take the initiative among these nascent soul cultivators with such a lineup, how could they have the face to say they were better than ordinary cultivators? There's still us, Fei Fei said lazily on the side. Yang Qingji automatically ignored him. Xiaofeng was an 8th-rank demonic beast cultivator with a noble bloodline, so she could be of help. Fei Fei hadn't even passed the transformation tribulation. When the time came, Mo Tiange had to put him into his spiritual beast bag. The few of them thought about it a few more times before they set out again. As before, Fei Fei transformed into his original form. While leading the way, he told them what he saw back then. There's nothing much to say about that sacrificial temple. However, the surrounding terrain is a bit special, so we might need to spend some effort. What terrain? Jing Xingji asked. Fei Fei didn't feel like explaining, so he said in a very bad tone, "You'll know when we get there." "Why are you talking so much nonsense?" That tone made Jing Xingji's hands itch. "You really don't know what a spiritual beast's duty is. As a spiritual beast, you have to talk to humans in a respectful and courteous tone, understand?" Fei Fei paused for a moment, then directly lifted one of his hind legs and made a puppy shushing gesture to show his disdain. Upon seeing that, Jing Xingji shouted, "You're acting like a hooligan? As a spiritual beast, you're actually acting like a hooligan towards humans? Not to mention that there's a woman here, there's even a mother beast here. Don't you feel embarrassed?" Xiaofeng cupped her hands and stood far away to show that it had nothing to do with her. Please, even if she was a female, she was a bird and Fei Fei was a beast. They were different races, all right? Besides, she could even be Fei Fei's grandmother. After walking for a while, Fei Fei suddenly stopped and sniffed with his nose. Then, he whimpered as if he was calling for something. As soon as his voice fell, other sounds rang out in the surroundings. Fei Fei whimpered again, and this sound also followed suit. The two beasts sang the same tune. Before long, the other side finally let down their guard. A huge figure drilled out of the stone forest step by step. This figure was terrifyingly huge. In front of it, the 6 of them were like little ants that could only raise their heads to look up. A three-headed ape. Among the people present, 4 of them had seen this three-headed ape with their own eyes in the past. 3 energies intertwined on its body, making it impervious to swords and spears and difficult to use magic to invade. Sure too. Fei raised his head and shouted. The three-headed ape stopped in front of them and stared at Fei with his huge eyes for a while. Then, he stretched out his palm and placed it in front of Fei. Fei leaped up and was lifted onto the shoulder by the three-headed ape. Oh! The three-headed ape blinked its eyes and tilted its head to look at Fei on its shoulder. Fei had this kind of magical ability. No matter what kind of ferocious beast it was, it wouldn't be hostile to it. The 2 beasts rubbed each other's heads affectionately and conversed in the beast's language for a while before Fei finally turned around. He said, "Let's go. Sure too, take us there." The first time they came to Carefree Valley, it was Sure too who took Fei there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have discovered that a sacrificial temple was hidden here. As if it understood, Sure too raised its head and shouted a few times, then led the group through the rubble. Only those who had been inside knew how chaotic the terrain of Carefree Valley was. Sometimes it was spiritual aura, sometimes it was devil aura, and sometimes it was filthy aura. Sure too didn't care in the slightest. It was a monster born from the mixture of 3 auras, so no matter which aura it wouldn't affect it. Moreover, these auras were nothing to a nascent soul cultivator. For a while, they moved forward very fast. Before long, they drilled into a certain cave. The group of people walked through the pitch-black cave. Xianxia took out the heaven and earth fan and used the mother moonstone on the fan pendant to illuminate the cave. Soon, the scene in the cave began to change. Chunks of ice emerged from the soil. At first, they were only small fragments, but as they went deeper and deeper, more and more of them appeared until their surroundings were covered by ice walls. It was as if they had walked into a world of ice and snow. So beautiful! Little Feng couldn't help but praise as she looked at the sparkling icicles around them and the jade-like ice walls. After passing through one ice cave after another, they gradually heard the sound of running water and a meandering stream slowly appeared under their feet. The stream grew bigger and bigger. In the end, they stood in front of a huge underground river. Listening to the sound of running water and watching the turbulent waves, the 6 people were a bit dumbfounded. There's a river here? In fact, there was nothing wrong with having a river. What was strange was that this river gathered 3 auras, among which the dead aura was the strongest. How do we go? Xianxia asked. With their cultivation levels, they could walk directly, but this would consume a lot of spiritual aura. Moreover, if they were careless and got entangled by the dead aura, it would be very troublesome. The three-headed ape raised its head and roared. Fei said, "Sure too, carry us there." The three-headed ape casually knocked a huge piece of floating ice from the ice wall and threw it into the river. The 6 people and 1 beast watched for a while. Fei, who was crouching on the three-headed ape's shoulder, said impatiently, "Let's go." After hesitating for a moment, everyone clenched their teeth and jumped onto the floating ice. The three-headed ape pushed the floating ice and stepped into the river. Chapter 638. The situation of this underground river was more complicated than that of Carefree Valley. In Carefree Valley, the 3 auras were scattered. Even if they were mixed together, they were as distinct as the light of the 3 auras in the stone forest. However, the 3 auras in the river were mixed into a strange state as if they had become something else. It was similar to the aura of death, but it was more complicated. It was dark and strange, making people's hair stand on end. Without Sure too, the 6 of them could also cross the river, but they would inevitably be entangled by this strange aura. Now, Sure too was pushing the ice flow. If the 3 auras entangled them, they would be swept away first. The 6 of them and 1 beast moved forward steadily. This river was wide and deep. From time to time, chilly wind blew in, making people's hair stand on end. Sure too stepped on the water, making splashing sounds as he pushed the ice flow, sending them to the other side of the river. Before long, the ice flow reached the other side, and they came down from it. Shirtu also waded into the water and climbed ashore. His height and physique made him fearless of the strangeness of this place. The group moved forward again. After crossing the underground river, the ground was full of puddles of black water. They walked back and forth as if they were walking on the riverbank. After walking for a while, Fei suddenly said, "There are ghost cultivators in front of us. Get ready to fight." Tiange was stunned. Ghost cultivators? Fei said, "This seems to be a mass grave with many corpses buried here, so ghost cultivators appeared. Probably because of the chaotic aura here, these ghost cultivators have no spiritual wisdom and only focus on killing. Shirtu and I aren't affected, but you guys can't." As they spoke, they all felt the aura of ghost cultivators. No wonder this place is dominated by the aura of death. There are ghost cultivators here. How strong are they? Ling Yunhe asked. He always paid attention to the most practical questions. 5th, 6th, 7th rank? Probably, Fei said irresponsibly. The important thing isn't their strength, but their numbers. A lot. If they're not strong enough, it's useless no matter how many there are, right? As they thought about this, the 6 of them were already standing in front of a fissure. After a long time, Tiange finally said one word. "So many? I've told you many times already." Fei was carefree as he sat on Stone's shoulder, wagging his tail. The sight of this made everyone's teeth itch. He couldn't see the end of the ravine in front of him, and the ravine was filled with ghost cultivators that were like walking corpses that floated around like ghosts. The strength of these ghost cultivators was evenly distributed, ranging from low level to high level. At first glance, there were at least dozens of them who were above the nascent soul realm. "Kill them," Tiange said. "That's the only way." As soon as Xianxia finished speaking, a red sword light darted out of his sleeve and instantly turned into a red light that enveloped him. Soon after, the red light flashed towards the other side of the river with lightning speed. After entering the range of the canyon, the ghostly cultivators who were swimming at the bottom of the river suddenly sprang up like cats that had smelled blood. The eyes of these ghost cultivators were dull, but their movements were agile. Regardless of their cultivation level, as long as they sensed Xianxia, they would all rush towards him. For a moment, ghostly shadows danced chaotically, and chilly winds blew. The 3 young real fire sword light moved forward with an indomitable will. All the ghosts that got close to it were killed by the vermilion bird's flames. Jing Xingji exclaimed, "This guy's strength has increased again. I have to work harder, or I still can't beat him." Tiange shook her head. "Fellow Daoist Jing, you'd better think of a more practical goal." "You're looking down on me," Jing Xingji said with grief and indignation. "Not bad, I can tell." Tiange smiled and waved her sleeves, turning into a white light and rushing towards the other side of the river. Her appearance made the ghost cultivators in the ravine chaotic. Some of them sensed her breath and changed their direction to float towards her, some of them still stuck to Xianxia, and some of them drifted left and right as if they didn't know what to do. Facing the ghost cultivators blocking her way, a sword appeared in front of Tiange. However, this sword was simple and unadorned, and its breath was gentle. It was the Fuxing sword. She pointed her finger, and a golden thunderbolt darted out and quickly wrapped around the Fuxing sword. With a crackling sound, the golden thunderbolt was immediately absorbed by the Fuxing sword. The momentum of the Fuxing sword suddenly changed, and its killing intent soared. The Fuxing sword covered by the golden thunderbolt was invincible. As long as the ghost cultivators got close to it, they would be turned into ashes by the thunder of heavenly tribulation. The others were speechless. Jing Xingji widened his eyes and said, "Are you kidding me? Could it be that I can't win against Qin Shoujing, and now I can't even win against his wife? Get over it." Nie Wuxiang patted him on the shoulder. "Most things in life don't go your way." As she spoke, she turned into a black cloud and slowly floated away. Jing Xingji shouted from behind her, "Hey, what's with that sympathetic tone of yours?" No one answered him. After Nie Wuxiang, Ling Yunhe, Yang Qingji, and Little Feng all rushed to the other side of the river. Even the rocks swayed and floated forward. Jing Xingji had no choice but to swing his sword and also fly out. Nie Wuxiang's black cloud was completely different from Master Songfeng's. Master Songfeng's was ruthless and full of dark aura, while hers was very gentle but had a stronger corrosive ability. Any ghost cultivator who chased after her was surrounded by her black cloud and slowly corroded until nothing was left. It was the same primordial devil great technique, but Yang Qingji's situation was completely different. He waved the ghost-faced banner in his hand, and a surge of devil aura lingered around his body, sweeping away all the ghost cultivators who approached him. Meanwhile, an exquisite pagoda floated above his head, emitting a dark but powerful aura. Under this aura, even nascent soul ghost cultivators were suppressed to the point of being unable to move. Heavenly Devil Pagoda was worthy of being the top magic weapon left behind by the most powerful devil cultivator in Yunzhong's history, a figure who was revered as the Devil Venerable. Ling Yunhe followed closely behind. At this time and place, facing so many ghost cultivators, Ling Yunhe didn't dare to hold back his strength. The moonlight sprinkled down, and all the ghost cultivators within its range screamed and disappeared. Compared to Heavenly Devil Pagoda, the soul-restraining bead was much more restrained. After being summoned by Ling Yunhe, it just floated in front of him, releasing a warm and stable light. However, under this light, the dead aura didn't invade, making Ling Yunhe calm and composed. Behind Ling Yunhe, little Feng let out a cry and showed her true form. Her whole body was burning with flames, and her long tail feathers were gorgeous and dazzling. All the ghost cultivators who approached her were burned to ashes by the vermilion bird flames on her body. Jing Xingji, who wasn't far away from her, exclaimed, "Divine bird phoenix? Could it be a fated chance obtained in the vermilion bird sacrificial temple? Qin Shoujing, this guy, how can he be so lucky?" The ghost cultivators swarmed over like a swarm of bees. In an instant, Jing Xingji's aura changed greatly. Countless light swords circled around him, and the sword lights flickered with threatening sharpness. The ghost cultivators came head-on, and the light swords rose from the ground and slashed at them with the force of 1,000 caddies. Chi chi chi. Compared to the imposing manner, the commotion was much smaller. The light sword slashed down these ghostly cultivators with ease and dexterity. Meanwhile, Stone and Fei Fei, who were far away from them, were extremely leisurely. No ghost cultivators came to find trouble with them. Stone was originally a monster with 3 chis intertwined, so he was like a fish in water in this place. Fei Fei, on the other hand, was blessed by nature. These ghost cultivators instinctively treated it as a harmless existence. The 6 people and 1 beast used all kinds of methods to kill their way into the canyon. For a moment, ghost shadows danced around, and the dead aura surged. Gradually, the low-level ghost cultivators were all killed, and only ghost cultivators of nascent soul and above were left. She didn't count them just now, but now that she took a look, the number of nascent soul ghost cultivators in this canyon actually reached more than 100. Mo Tiange couldn't help but exclaim in surprise when she thought about how the ghost city in Windy Sand City in the far west also had more than 100 ghost cultivators. Are ghost cultivators' nascent souls so worthless? Why do they have nascent souls so easily? Qin Shi, who wasn't far from her, said while fighting the ghost cultivators, "Why don't you take a look at how many there are and how long they've been here? If human cultivators don't have a limited lifespan, there will be countless nascent souls." Mo Tiange couldn't help but nod when she heard what he said. On the path of human cultivators to the nascent soul realm, countless people had fallen in the middle. Whether it was aptitude, comprehension, temperament, fated chances, or luck, countless cultivators had fallen in front of every hurdle. In addition to all of these, there was also lifespan. Ghost cultivators and monster cultivators could use several times the time of human cultivators to make up for their shortcomings, but human cultivators had to be confined by their short lifespan. In other words, where there was gain, there was loss. Human cultivators had wisdom that monster cultivators couldn't reach and bodies that ghost cultivators couldn't compare to, so it was difficult for them to break through the shackles of their lifespan. Although heaven favored human beings, it still maintained a balance within a certain limit. Moreover, for some reason, these ghost cultivators in front of them didn't retain their consciousness. Instead, they became corpse-like existences, which couldn't be compared to human cultivators at all. Their group had magic weapons and secret techniques, so each of them could fight against a group of people alone. Their path was blocked, and everyone was caught in a fight. They unanimously chose to move closer to the others. They weren't here to kill ghost cultivators, so it was proper for them to stick together and go straight to Qin Shi. Little Feng was the fastest. As Qin Shi's spiritual beast, her first priority was to get close to Qin Shi. Therefore, she took advantage of the time when the others were killing ghost cultivators and borrowed their fame to reach Qin Shi's side without much effort. "Master, come up," said Little Feng. Qin Shi had just killed 2 ghost cultivators, so he jumped onto Little Feng's back without much hesitation. Although he had strength to spare, flying in the air like this would waste a lot of spiritual aura to resist the attack of the dead aura. Little Feng was a bird, so flying was her instinct. It was much easier for her to carry him on her back. On Little Feng's back, Qin Shi's sword formation was activated again, forming a Red Sea. Little Feng cooperated with him and spat out the vermilion bird's flames, which burned the dead aura around them. "Tienga!" Qin Shi shouted and reached out his hand to her. Tienga looked up and summoned the puppet. She gave the Fusheng sword to the puppet, took Qin Shi's hand, and got on Little Feng's back. The Fusheng sword also contained her golden lightning. Although the puppet didn't have spiritual intelligence, it was the easiest to command. Tienga let it guard Little Feng and cooperate with Little Feng's vermilion bird's flames to release lightning from time to time. The ghost cultivators around them couldn't get close to them, so they didn't need to do anything. "You too are opportunistic," Jing Xingji accused them as everyone gathered. Which one of them didn't try their best to kill the enemy? The 2 of them, on the other hand, sat on the back of their spiritual beasts and let the spiritual beasts and the puppets kill each other. They didn't even need to do anything. "Fellow Daoist Jing," Tienga waved the heaven and earth fan and said, "Wise men use their mouths, but fools use their fists. You have to accept your fate." Before Jing Xingji could speak, Nie Wushang, who was leaning towards them, narrowed her eyes. "You mean we're all fools?" Chapter 639. Half a day had passed by the time they crossed the canyon. Although the strength of these ghost cultivators wasn't great, they had the advantage in numbers. 10 or so ghost cultivators surrounded one, and even if they couldn't defeat the ghost cultivator, they would exhaust the ghost cultivator to death. Moreover, the surrounding was filled with dead aura, so they had to split their attention to resist it. Finally, everyone gathered together and crossed the canyon in one go, then they rested on the spot. "Fei Fei, there's nothing behind us, right?" Fei Fei answered while combing the hair on Stone's head. "It seems. And we don't have to fight anymore. It's just a bit hard to walk." Complicated terrain? Nothing could be discussed if they didn't have to fight, so they didn't take it seriously. After resting for half a day, everyone recovered their spiritual aura and continued on their journey. Before long, they saw what Fei Fei said was a bit hard to walk. It was a huge karst cave, the top of which couldn't be seen. They entered the cave, made many turns, and went deep into the ground. Looking at the situation of this karst cave, it was as high as a small mountain. The problem with this karst cave wasn't its height, but the black water droplets that dripped or floated in the cave. These water droplets contained a strong aura similar to that of the underground river, but their corrosive intent was far stronger. "What's this?" Tienga asked. Fei Fei spread her hands to show she didn't know. "Anyway, we can't touch it." She separated a strand of sword light and touched a mass of black water. In an instant, with a chi sound, the sword light and the black water collided with each other. The black water dissipated, but the sword light wavered for a while before stabilizing. "It's that powerful?" Tienga was taken aback. Shi's sword light contained the vermilion bird's breath. The destructive and evil-suppressing intent within it was the nemesis of ghosts and devils, yet it was actually corroded by this ordinary black water. Ling Yunhe frowned. With a stroke of his finger, a piece of moonlight flew out of his sleeve and hit a floating drop of black water. This time, there wasn't even a sound. The moonlight and the drop of water disappeared at the same time. Jing Xingji didn't believe it, so he also drew his sword and slashed at a drop of black water. The black water was cut, but a trace of black aura remained on his sword. Jing Xingji's natal sword had long been refined into his sword nascent soul. However, he was a sword cultivator after all, so he had to look cool. From venerable sword cultivator to Gujin sect's new disciples, all of them liked to carry a sword on their back outside. Jing Xingji was no exception. The sword on his back was the original body of the still water sword. At this time it was corroded by the black water, and even his sword qi had become impure. He felt great regret and hurriedly forced the black qi out. Nie Wuxiang also made her move to test the water. Her black cloud lightly propped up the water, allowing the black water to drip on it and then drip down again. You're all right? Mo Tiange was astonished. Nie Wuxiang said, "You don't remember? When I entered the Carefree Valley, I was also contaminated by the aura of death, but it was later swallowed by the aura of primordial devil. Perhaps it's from the same source, so the aura of death doesn't have a strong corrosive effect on me." She called the black cloud back and pushed it in front of her. Look. There were still traces left on the black clouds, but compared to them, they were much fainter. What about fellow Daoist Yang? Mo Tiange turned towards Yang Qingji. You also cultivate the primordial devil art, so presumably you're the same, right? Yang Qingji also made his move to give it a try. Sure enough, although he couldn't compare to Nie Wuxiang, the black water's corrosive effect on him was also greatly reduced. Since you can maintain your strength, the matter of guarding will be left to you. Both Nie Wuxiang and Yang Qingji nodded in agreement. At present, it seemed that this part of the road might be more dangerous than the Ghost Cultivator's Canyon. These black water droplets either drifted or dripped down, and it was impossible to guard against them. If there was an accident, they might accidentally get contaminated by it. Let's go. Let's try it first. After waiting for so long, Fei Fei was a little impatient. Stone also barked twice. Then he lifted Fei Fei down and held her in his palm. Using his body to block the surrounding black water, he stepped into the cave. Mo Tiange shook her head and also followed them in. There were water stains everywhere on the ground, and there were water droplets flying everywhere. It was more than just a bit difficult, as Fei Fei said. They didn't need to fight on this part of the road, but it was more exhausting. Mo Tiange used the art of primordial singular energy as well as that immortal robe and carefully walked through it. These black water droplets didn't have any pattern at all. In this karst cave, they simply did whatever they wanted. They were either like ordinary water droplets, dripping from the top. They gathered into a pool on the ground and consciously expanded and shrank. They simply shuttled around the karst cave like naughty children, or they collided, merged, and separated in the air. Mo Tiange was almost amazed. These water droplets seemed to have a life of their own. Some were cheerful, some were calm, some were fanatical, and some were melancholic. They formed their own world. If one looked at them carefully, they seemed to be integrated into their world, following their joys, sorrows, and joys. Mo Tiange felt a chill in her chest and suddenly woke up. She looked around and saw that the others were more or less immersed in it. Only Nie Wuxiang and Yang Qingji were a bit clear-headed. "Be careful," she shouted. "There's something strange here." Everyone's spirits were instantly shaken as if they had just woken up from a dream. Lingyan was shocked. What the hell is this? He was afraid the soul-restraining bead would be contaminated by the black water and corroded, so he put it away. But because he didn't have the soul-restraining bead to suppress his primordial spirit, these water droplets took advantage of his weakness and entered his primordial spirit. No one could answer this question. Fei Fei and Shirtu didn't have to worry at all and had long disappeared. The 6 people and 1 beast roused their spirits and each used their unique skills. They all knew that even if they were corroded by the black water, they couldn't let their minds be bewitched. Once they lost their minds, it was the same as handing over their lives. Lingyan took out the soul-restraining bead and said, "Come closer." The soul-restraining bead has the effect of calming one's mind. Upon hearing that, the others all moved closer to Lingyan. The soul-restraining bead floated in the air. Under Lingyan's control, it shone brightly illuminating everything within a radius of several hundred feet. With the soul-restraining bead suppressing them, their spirits were shaken. The 6 people moved forward slowly. They had to prevent their minds from being bewitched and also guard against the black water's corrosion, so they walked extremely slowly. When they walked several hundred feet, the water droplets behind them suddenly merged drop by drop at an extremely fast speed, gathering into a large pool of black water on the ground. The black water walked along a strange curve, drawing a head, a body, and hands and feet on the ground. When the humanoid figure was finished, it suddenly struggled, broke free from the ground's restraint, and stood up. This black person formed by the black water seemed to be wearing a tight black skin. He had no hair, no facial features, no nails, and no hair. He only had pitch-black skin that flowed like water. He twisted his arms and legs, then adjusted his direction and walked towards the people in front of him, not making a sound as he walked. These people were very careful, but his speed was too fast. In just a flash, he had already attacked them. "Watch out!" Nie Wuxiang shouted. A black cloud was waved out, blocking the black person's attack. Seeing this thing, the others sucked in a mouthful of cold air. They only felt that this black water seemed to have a life, but they didn't expect it to really have a life. This person formed by the black water didn't have the slightest pressure from head to toe. It only had the black water's own destructive and filthy aura. If it wasn't for the fact that Nie Wuxiang's strength hadn't dropped too much, they probably wouldn't have sensed this attack at all. In an instant, everyone took out their magic weapons. "Step back!" Nie Wuxiang shouted. "Let me and fellow Daoist Yang handle it." This black water's corrosive effect on them was too strong. If they got close, they'd be splashed by a few drops, and their strength would also drop. This wasn't something that could be recovered by resting for a day or two. Without the slightest hesitation, Immortal and the others retreated several steps. Yang Chengji also didn't hesitate. He waved his ghost face banner, and primordial devil aura quickly swept towards the black person. "Let's go!" "Qin," she said, "this place is disadvantageous to us. Staying here will only drag them down." The 4 people and 1 beast moved forward quickly, using all kinds of methods without hesitation. As long as they didn't corrode themselves and their natal magic weapons, they didn't care about other magic weapons. Destroying treasures was always better than destroying people. On this side, although the person formed by the black water had a bit of spiritual intelligence, it was far inferior to a human being. After being repeatedly swept by Yang Chengji's ghost face banner, it immediately became flustered. Upon seeing this, Nie Wuxiang raised her fist, gathered primordial devil aura, and threw a punch. She was a martial cultivator, so her punch was full of power. With a single punch, the black person shattered, but it still turned into countless black water droplets and scattered in all directions. She and Yang Chengji stood for a while. The water droplets around them were still floating around, but all of a sudden, a figure finished gathering behind her and stood up. "Behind you!" Yang Chengji shouted. With a wave of his ghost face banner, a streak of primordial devil aura shot towards the black person. Nie Wuxiang turned around and threw another punch, shattering the black person. "This won't do. We can't kill it," Yang Chengji said with furrowed brows. "Let's go." Nie Wuxiang nodded. Without hesitation, she followed behind him and ran forward. Not long after, they saw Immortal and the others who had left earlier. They were surrounded by 3 to 5 black people. The 4 people and 1 beast were resisting while running away. "Cut them off," Yang Chengji said. With a wave of his ghost face banner, a black person was quickly knocked down by him. Nie Wuxiang nodded and shouted, "You guys go." The 4 people and 1 beast didn't stand on ceremony. After dealing with 2 black people, they left the rest to Immortal and the others and quickly left. When they ran out of sight, Nie Wuxiang smashed a black person with a punch and said, "Thank you." Yang Chengji's gaze changed. "Thank me for what?" "Thank you for being willing to trust them." Nie Wuxiang looked at him and smiled. Originally, we wouldn't have said anything if you went first. Yang Qingji took advantage of the moment he was facing the enemy to turn around. His pale face looked a bit unnatural, but his voice was cold and hard. You're not the only one who might have friends. Nie Wuxiang was stunned. In the next second, the corners of her mouth curved up and her voice also carried a bit of joy. I talk too much. Sorry. The two of them no longer said anything. After dealing with these black people, they once again chased after the others. When they arrived, they still saw the same scene. They were surrounded by several black people, and their numbers were increasing. Everyone felt a bit powerless. They felt like they were punching cotton. These black people turned into water droplets with a single hit, and the water droplets turned into human beings after a while. As for them, they had cultivation levels and magic weapons, but because they were afraid of being corroded, they couldn't attack with all their strength. They could only run like this while Nie Wuxiang and Yang Qingji brought up the rear. A sound came from afar. Stone's silhouette slowly approached. Seeing that they were fighting with the black people, it was very surprised. Soon after, it stepped forward, pushed and threw a black person, smashing him into water droplets. It then pushed and threw them again. In a few breaths' time, all the black people were wiped out. The 6 people and 1 beast were a bit dumbfounded. They were a group of nascent soul cultivators who were known as geniuses, as well as a divine beast with a noble bloodline, but they actually couldn't compare to a demonic beast that hadn't taken human form. Chapter 640. Led by Stone, they soon left the karst cave. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the familiar boulders on the ground. There won't be any more problems, right? Tiange said, but she didn't move. I don't think so. Fei Fei felt a little guilty. He was protected by Stone, so he didn't see the black water taking shape when he passed through the karst cave, so he thought there wouldn't be a fight. In the end, they were almost trapped inside, so he didn't have much confidence to say that. Tiange didn't know what he was thinking, but she still cautiously released the puppet and went to test it. With a stiff expression, the puppet carried the Fuxing sword and walked step by step into the passage of the sacrificial temple. After walking for 300 to 500 feet, there was no movement. Everyone was finally relieved. Compared to other sacrificial temples, Black Tortoise's breath was much more restrained. Apart from the temple's heavy and simple style, it only vaguely revealed a sense of peace and vastness. Black Tortoise, water attribute, can position, born of extreme Yin, controlled all living things. Its body was a combination of a turtle and a snake, symbolizing continuous good fortune. Compared to the other 4 spirits, Azure Dragon symbolized tolerance and vitality, Vermilion Bird represented enthusiasm and vitality, White Tiger represented killing and violence, and Black Tortoise represented integration and good fortune. Its breath wasn't strong because water was everywhere in the world, but it hid in all things. Its breath also wasn't fierce because water's characteristic was to nourish all things. However, this Black Tortoise temple was different from other sacrificial temples. Its Black Tortoise's breath wasn't so pure. How could this be? Qin Shi was the first to notice something was wrong. Although Tiange, Jing Xingji, and Fei Fei inherited the divine beast's breath, they couldn't use it as well as he did. He was the only one who completely integrated the Vermilion Bird's breath with his body, so he could feel the divine beast's breath more directly. The characteristic of the divine beast's breath was that it was superior to all breaths existing in the current cultivation world, so it was the purest. However, although Black Tortoise Temple was also vast and sacred, it seemed to have a trace of impurities. What's wrong? Jing Xingji asked blankly. Don't you think Black Tortoise's breath isn't pure? Qin Shi cast a sidelong glance at him. They didn't have a deep friendship before, so he didn't think so. Now that Jing Xingji stopped pretending in front of him, Qin Shi finally realized that this guy was smart, but he didn't like to use his brain in front of them. Now that he thought about it, for a person like Jing Xingji, how could he act like this if he didn't completely trust him? Thinking back, although he felt that Jing Xingji was a trustworthy person, he didn't like his behavior and manner. He didn't expect that after several hundred years, his cultivation level would rise higher and higher. Among his old friends, only Xianxia would reach Yuaning. Thinking up to this point, she calmed down a bit. Black Tortoise Temple is obviously different from other sacrificial temples. Although there was also a ghost city beside the White Tiger, there wasn't any ghost chi seeping out, so it wasn't affected. Although the vermilion bird had devil chi, it belonged to the prime devil stone steel. The vermilion bird's aura and prime devil chi didn't interfere with each other. As for the black tortoise, it's obvious that he's been affected by other auras. Why did this happen? Xianxia continued to ask. She paused for a moment, trying his best to smooth the blue veins on his forehead. However, his tone revealed his emotions. Please use your brain. I'm not your father. Everyone, Xianxia said, at our age it'd be too difficult for you to be my father. You might be able to be my father-in-law. Everyone, stop talking nonsense. Let's go. Wuxia took the lead and stepped into the sacrificial temple. Immortal followed closely behind her. When she passed by Xianxia, she stopped and looked him up and down like she was looking at her son-in-law. He looks okay, but he's a bit old. Xianxia grinned mischievously. Being old has its advantages. Mother-in-law, when will my fiancé be born? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The Black Tortoise Temple was also made of neatly arranged boulders, but the color of the Black Tortoise Temple was darker and carried a cool aura. Moreover, this cool aura was mixed with a lot of indescribable auras. Immortal wrinkled her brows. How long have these ghost cultivators been here? They've actually corroded the Black Tortoise's aura. At least, more than 100,000 years, right? Wuxia said, Carefree Valley is an ancient relic. So many corpses could only have been buried here before the collapse of the Middle Ages era. Ling Yunhe agreed. Correct. Carefree Valley was a paradise in the Middle Ages era, so I'm guessing it was either sealed during the Middle Ages era or it was destroyed at the end of the Middle Ages era, so these people all died in the canyon. Over 100,000 years, countless corpses, and the dead aura gathered in the canyon, gradually turning it into a world of ghost cultivators. Due to the change of the world and the collapse of the space, the former paradise was polluted by the filthy aura. These ghost cultivators lost their spiritual intelligence and became zombie-like existences. The fusion of many auras turned into a new kind of aura, which gradually eroded the Black Tortoise Temple here. After a long time, the Black Tortoise Temple became what it was today. After walking through the wide stone path, they saw a heavy stone door engraved with black totems and densely packed ancient murals, looking solemn and distant. They pushed the stone door open, and a strong divine beast's aura rushed into their faces. They saw a tall and spacious hall with thick stone pillars and a silent statue at the end of the hall. A black serpent was coiled on the huge turtle's back, looking down at them with indifferent eyes. Let's go out, Xianxia said in a low voice. Wuxia nodded. The divine beast's aura here is too strong. We'd better avoid it. Be careful. Immortal looked back and said, since Demon Lord Moonshadow knows about the existence of the temple, he probably found his old friends in Starfall City and could come here at any time. The two of them nodded and went out. When they turned around, they saw Ling Yunhe looking pensive. Immortal asked, Fellow Daoist Ling, is there something wrong? Ling Yunhe said, that year, Starfall City was uprooted by Demon Lord Night Frost. Almost no one escaped this disaster. How could fellow Daoist Tianqin and Demon Lord Moonshadow run into survivors? Immortal's expression was solemn. You mean, he said softly, I'm afraid this is Demon Lord Moonshadow's trap. As soon as Ling Yunhe finished speaking, Immortal felt something was wrong outside. She cultivated the soul-refining art, so her divine sense was very sharp. Soon she found someone else had entered the temple. Xianxia, and the others all looked serious. Xiaofeng also frowned. They knew Ling Yunhe's guess was probably right. They had Shirtu with them, but it was already so difficult for them to reach this place. Now, someone else had come in such a short time. It was obvious they had been prepared for a long time. Let's get our things first and meet up with fellow Daoist Nye and fellow Daoist Yang, Xianxia said. Everyone nodded. They quickly left the hall and went to the back. Tiange took some time to send a sound-transmitting talisman to Nye Wuxiang, telling them to come quickly. While following behind Xianxia, Tiange said in a low voice, "Why did Devil Lord Yu Ying set up this trap?" Demon Lord Moonshadow's actions could be said to have mobilized a lot of people. In addition to him, there were 3 nascent soul cultivators, 7 or 8 nascent soul cultivators, and 20 or 30 early-stage cultivators. Among them, only Nye Wuxiang and Yang Qingji were devil cultivators, so they might have something he was interested in. If it was just for the 2 of them, why did he need to make such a big scene? Many people made things complicated. What if someone else took it? Hearing her words, Xianxia said, "In my opinion, he just took advantage of the situation." "What do you mean?" Xianxia said, "If we hadn't arrived in time, fellow Daoist Nye probably wouldn't have been able to escape. Why did he need to set a trap? I'm afraid Demon Lord Moonshadow only used the fish in Starfall City to test whether she had the primordial devil great technique or not. As for the temple, he just mentioned it casually." Tiange thought about it and nodded. Without the primordial devil stone tablet, the temple wasn't very valuable to devil cultivators. For Demon Lord Moonshadow, it was only valuable to gain Nye Wuxiang's trust. She continued, "In the end we arrived. He couldn't defeat us and knew we were coming to the temple, so he simply spread the news and called a group of nascent soul cultivators to fight with us for the Black Tortoise. Then he dealt with Nye Wuxiang himself and snatched the primordial devil great technique. There's also Yang Qingji." Xianxia added, "If he confirmed that Nye Wuxiang practiced the primordial devil great technique, then there's no need to mention Yang Qingji. Their devil auras were similar. If he confirmed one, he could confirm the other." Tiange was stunned and asked, "If that's the case, isn't it the same for him to snatch Yang Qingji?" "It's not the same." Xianxia shook his head with a smile. "Yang Qingji is Guifang Devil Lord's disciple and the master of the Devil Venerable's holy object. Fellow Daoist Ling also said he easily defeated a middle-stage cultivator. Demon Lord Moonshadow lost a refined corpse, so it's not easy to deal with him. Besides, other people might not know about fellow Daoist Yang's personality, but how could we not? He's watertight. I'm afraid it'll be hard for Demon Lord Moonshadow to stop him." Tiange couldn't help but laugh when she recalled the dozens of years in the Immortal Palace in the returning ruins sea. Wasn't Yang Qingji guarding the primordial Devil Stone Cave and not coming out to guard against them? Fellow Daoist Yang, because of his outstanding talent, had been a thorn in the side of his senior martial brothers and sisters since he was a child. His growth was a history of fighting against all kinds of conspiracies, so he was very experienced in dealing with this kind of situation. It was just that this time, the enemy was a bit stronger. However, Demon Lord Moonshadow didn't expect that Wuxiang's master wasn't inferior to Guifang Devil Lord, and his experience was more complicated than Yang Qingji's. It wasn't easy to catch Wuxiang. Xianxia smiled. "Yes, otherwise he wouldn't have waited until we arrived." As they spoke, they went through the last stone door and saw a huge square. Tiange had seen the Azure Dragon's sacrificial temple. Inside it was a complete Azure Dragon skeleton. In the Vermilion Bird sacrificial temple, the Vermilion Bird's remains had been made into the Vermilion Bird bow and enshrined in the sacrificial temple. The White Tiger's sacrificial temple was different. The whole White Tiger was preserved intact, and its body belonged to Feifei. The White Tiger Pearl, which gathered the White Tiger's breath, recognized Jing Xingji as its master. Now, in the square of this Black Tortoise sacrificial temple, there was a glowing blue pearl floating. The water inside the pearl was billowing, as if it contained the whole world. They couldn't be more familiar with this pearl. Aside from the difference in color and breath, it looked exactly the same as the White Tiger Pearl. "This is the Black Tortoise Pearl?" Jing Xingji said. "It should be. Let's quickly subdue it, or it'll fall into someone else's hands." Right after they finished talking, Nye Wuxiang and Yang Qingji ran over. The 2 of them were devil cultivators, so they didn't dare to come close. They just stood at the door. Yang Qingji even summoned the heavenly devil tower and turned to face the stone path. Mo Tiange understood what they meant. They wanted to block the people behind them. Mo Tiange didn't have time to be moved. She summoned Xiaofan and said, "The black tortoise's attribute is water. I reckon you'll have to practice a water attribute cultivation technique to be able to trigger the black tortoise's breath and make it recognize you as its master. However, this is only my personal opinion. We can try it together." Ling Yunhe nodded. "That's natural. The opportunity belongs to everyone." Jing Xingji said, "I only have metal spiritual roots, so I probably won't be able to do it. Besides, I already have the white tiger's breath, so I won't fight with you guys." Right after he said that, he retreated and went to guard the door with Yang Qingji and Nie Wusheng. Qin Shi also shook his head and said, "I also don't have water spiritual roots. You guys can do it." There was no need to mention Xiaofeng. She was now a genuine descendant of a divine beast, so how could she possibly inherit another divine beast's breath? In the end, only Mo Tiange, Ling Yunhe, and Xiaofan, who was released from the spiritual beast bracelet, remained. "Fellow Daoist Ling," Mo Tiange said with a smile, "I also have water spiritual roots, so I have to fight with you." Chapter 641. Yang Qingji guarded the main entrance, Nie Wusheng stood silently on the side, and Jing Xingji and Qin Shi were a little further inside. The four of them stood in the most suitable positions, unsheathed their swords, and took out their magic weapons, ready to fight. With such a formation, even great cultivators in the late nascent soul stage couldn't easily enter. Mo Tiange, Ling Yunhe, and Xiaofan surrounded the black tortoise pearl, guarding little Feng and the puppet not far away, and Stone hiding far away with Fei Fei on its back. Fei Fei was only at the 7th rank, and Stone hadn't transformed, so they'd better not get involved in this situation. "Master!" The water breath of the black tortoise pearl attracted Xiaofan. It looked at the black tortoise pearl, drooling. "Can this be eaten?" Mo Tiange raised her eyebrows. "Do you want to eat it?" Xiaofan drooled. "It looks delicious." Mo Tiange smiled. Xiaofan was a sea dragon, but different from the azure dragon of the wood attribute, it was a spirit beast of the water attribute, so the breath of the black tortoise was very attractive to it. "Fellow Daoist Ling, let's do it quickly," Mo Tiange said. Ling Yunhe took a step back. "Fellow Daoist Mo, please go first." Mo Tiange didn't know whether he did this because he was grateful or for other reasons, but she didn't like to refuse, so she nodded and said, "Then I won't be polite." Then, she operated the art of origin and grabbed the black tortoise pearl. The black tortoise pearl was successfully caught in Mo Tiange's hand and suddenly shone. Mo Tiange only felt a little dizzy. In an instant, she felt that countless things flowed through her mind, as if she had experienced time since ancient times, and she was drowned by the overwhelming water spiritual aura. After a long time, she suddenly woke up and looked down. The breath of the black tortoise wrapped around her whole arm. At this moment, it stopped, and the black tortoise pearl flew out of her hand uncontrollably, still floating in the air. Mo Tiange felt it was a pity. She had never practiced a water attribute cultivation technique and only had the art of the origin, so she couldn't make it recognize her as its master and could only borrow the breath of the black tortoise. "It's coming!" At the other end of the stone path, a figure appeared. Yang Qingji shouted in a low voice and pointed at the space between his eyebrows. The heavenly devil tower started to spin above his head, and the devil aura in the surroundings all rushed towards the heavenly devil tower. Even Nie Wusheng was somewhat unable to control her own devil aura. Only after seeing this did they understand why Yang Qingji was able to easily defeat that mid-stage demonic cultivator. The heavenly demon tower could control the surrounding demonic qi, and any demonic cultivator would be affected. The person who came was Demon Lord Yu Ying. Accompanying him was Old Donkey Ma, the loose cultivator from Yunzhong. Demon Lord Moonshadow was at the front, and Old Donkey Ma was riding his donkey upside down, following closely behind. His old face was still smiling like a chrysanthemum flower. Accompanied by the ding-ling-ling sounds, he slowly walked over. When the bell rang in their ears, everyone's mind was in a mess. They hurriedly guarded their minds. The Moon Shadow Demon Lord had just neared when he heard Yang Qingji shout. The heavenly demon tower suddenly attacked the Moon Shadow Demon Lord. After that, Jing Xingji, thousands of sword lights, like a broken silver bottle, suddenly pierced out. Demon Lord Moon Shadow didn't slow down at all. He clenched his hands, and the demonic qi spread. The refined corpse rushed forward. There's no time. Mo Tiange turned her head and said, "Fellow Daoist Ling, if you don't mind, my spiritual beast will try with you. What do you think?" Ling Yunhe nodded. "Okay." Just now, when Mo Tiange easily grabbed the black tortoise pearl, his heart skipped a beat. He thought he missed the fated chance again, and he secretly regretted it. It wasn't until the black tortoise pearl automatically broke free that he heaved a sigh of relief. He secretly smiled bitterly. At first, he thought Mo Tiange didn't cultivate a water element technique, and he cultivated the Ice Palace's sect guarding technique, the ice and fire technique, so his chances of getting the black tortoise pearl to recognize him as its master were much higher. That was why he generously gave the opportunity to Mo Tiange. After this, he felt it was better not to pretend to be generous in the future. "Xiaofan." Mo Tiange patted Xiaofan's head. "If you want to eat it, then eat it. However, you have to compete with fellow Daoist Ling to see who the black tortoise pearl recognizes as its master." Xiaofan nodded obediently and happily rushed towards the black tortoise pearl. Mo Tiange said, "Fellow Daoist Ling, please." Ling Yunhe didn't stand on ceremony. He waved his sleeve, and countless moonlight fragments on it turned into clear light. Then, half of his body was covered in flames, and the other half was wrapped in mysterious ice. He reached out to the black tortoise pearl. This was Mo Tiange's first time seeing the ice and fire technique in full display. Thinking back to the vermilion bird sacrificial temple, it was completely different from today. Presumably, Ling Yunhe's ice and fire technique hadn't reached the advanced level at that time. If the Sea of Returning Ruins appeared today, Ling Yunhe would have formed his nascent soul, and it would be hard to say who the vermilion bird bow would belong to. Thinking of this, Mo Tiange felt a bit lucky. Fortunately, they caught up in time and got a spiritual communicating magic weapon for free. The black tortoise pearl stopped between Xiaofan and Ling Yunhe. The mysterious ice formed by the ice and fire technique was clear and pure, and the water element spiritual aura on Xiaofan's body was incomparably abundant. Under the influence of these two, the black tortoise pearl suddenly burst into brilliance. Xiaofan and Ling Yunhe were fighting for the black tortoise pearl at the entrance. Yang Qingji and Jing Xingji joined hands. The heavenly devil tower suppressed Yu Ying Devil Master, the ghost face banner repelled the refined corpses, and thousands of sword lights pressed down like snow. Yu Ying Devil Master couldn't move an inch forward for a while. After being repelled, Yu Ying Devil Master's eyes flashed. He said, "Fellow Daoist Ma, the divine beast's object is about to be taken away by them. Are you still going to stand by and watch?" Old Donkey Ma, who was behind him, didn't answer. He just chuckled and patted the donkey he was riding. The donkey soared into the sky and leaped towards them, ignoring the sword lights as if they were nothing. This donkey only looked like a donkey, but it was actually a rare spiritual beast. Its 4 snow-white hooves drew marvelous trajectories in the air, and the surrounding space fluctuated strangely. Jing Xingji felt his eyes were blurred. The sword lights were clearly still there, but the donkey carrying Old Donkey Ma passed through his sword lights and leaped over the stone door. Qin Shi frowned. The sword formation he had prepared a long time ago came crashing down. Old Donkey Ma separated from his donkey. The donkey rolled and turned into a black-clothed boy. The black-clothed boy ignored Qin Shi and threw a string of bells at Niawusheng. "We haven't seen each other for many years. Fellow Daoist Qin's cultivation has improved again." Old Donkey Ma said with a smile, "The new generation really surpasses the old. I didn't expect the younger generation to be so outstanding. Old guys like us will soon have nowhere to go." Although he said that, Old Donkey Ma's movements weren't slow. He gently waved his whip, and countless wind blades appeared out of thin air, easily blocking Qin Shi's sword formation. Late nascent soul cultivators were indeed extraordinary. A thought flashed through Qianxi's mind. With a wave of his sleeve, the vermilion bird's flames gushed out continuously and once again formed a sword formation. We haven't seen each other for many years. Senior, you're still as elegant as ever. How could we juniors dare to compare with you? Qianxi asked himself honestly. He believed he had the strength to compete with late nascent soul cultivators, but if it was a life-and-death battle, he would be slightly inferior. The higher one's cultivation level was, the harder it was to kill an enemy with a higher cultivation level. Early nascent soul cultivators might be fake, but late nascent soul cultivators were all genuine top cultivators in the human realm. Whether it was their means or temperament, they were all first class. Facing Qianxi's sword formation, old Donkey Ma didn't seem to be in a difficult position. He swung his whip again, and flowers made of countless wind blades suddenly appeared in the air, slowly blooming. This flower appeared without a sound and was formless, but it was beautiful beyond compare. Every petal was formed by wind blades, and they spun rapidly, bringing with them a faintly discernible chill. Anything that approached would be silently shredded into pieces. It was truly a top-notch method to deal with a sinister person. The wind flowers collided with the sea of swords. The red sword lights emitted several puff, puff, puff sounds, like candlelight being gently blown out. Qianxi's pupils shrank, and another sword light swam out from his sleeve. This sword light was inconspicuous and no different from other sword lights. In fact, this sword light contained an extremely thick vermilion bird's breath. It was the main body of the three young real fire sword. Old Donkey Ma's wind flowers bloomed more and more. In just a flash, they covered half of the square, even affecting Nie Wusheng. Xiaofeng, go help them. Seeing that, Emo Tiange waved her heaven and earth fan, and golden lightning shot out, weaving into a dense net of lightning, firmly protecting Xiaofan and Lingyan. At the same time, she controlled the puppet to move forward and slashed at old Donkey Ma. Fuxing's sword was originally of the thunder attribute, and Emo Tiange attached the golden lightning tribulation to it, greatly increasing its power. Although it wasn't as good as the heavenly demon tower, it was still a rare top-grade flying sword. Although it had the cultivation level of the nascent soul realm, it couldn't compare to a real nascent soul cultivator. However, because of Fuxing's sword, it wasn't inferior to an ordinary nascent soul cultivator at all. With one slash, Fuxing's sword slashed out a thunderbolt. Even old Donkey Ma didn't dare to take it head-on and retreated. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qianxi attacked with the sword formation, smashing most of the wind flowers. Taking advantage of his victory, he secretly hid the main body of the three young real fire sword. On the other side, Yang Qingji and Jing Xingji were fighting evenly with Demon Lord Yu Ying. Originally, Demon Lord Yu Ying's strength wasn't limited to this, but he was restrained by Yang Qingji's heavenly demon tower, so he couldn't display his full strength. Jing Xingji was a sword cultivator, so he actually suppressed Demon Lord Yu Ying to the point that he couldn't use his divine power. While their fight was in full swing, Emo Tiange keenly sensed that someone else had entered the sacrificial temple. She turned around and saw that Xiaofan and Ling Yunhe were still engrossed in subduing the pearl of black tortoise. As if it was stimulated by their breaths, the pearl of black tortoise shone brightly, but it still floated steadily in the air, unable to be subdued by them. Emo Tiange's heart sank. It's been so long, but the pearl of black tortoise still hasn't been subdued. Could it be that the two of us aren't strong enough to make it recognize us as its master? After taking a closer look, she was somewhat stunned. This pearl of black tortoise indeed hadn't been subdued by them, but it wasn't like her. She couldn't sense it. Instead, it was moving left and right. The glowing blue ball of light spun rapidly. Sometimes it moved towards Ling Yunhe, and sometimes it moved towards Xiaofan, as if it was being pulled here and there by them. Could it be that both of them can subdue the pearl of black tortoise? As soon as this thought emerged, Emo Tiange became nervous. If they couldn't subdue it, it would be fine. But if they could subdue it, it would be too much of a pity if they couldn't. As time slowly passed, the pearl of black tortoise slowly floated towards Ling Yunhe. This time, Xiaofan couldn't pull it back. Emo Tiange sighed and put away her regret. Never mind, At least it's Ling Yunhe's and not someone else's. But it's a pity for Xiaofan. If he could swallow the pearl of black tortoise, maybe he could advance in one go and break through the transformation realm. Just as she was thinking about this, Xiaofan might have become anxious. It opened its big mouth and bit it. Of course, it couldn't really bite the pearl of black tortoise. That wouldn't be competing but robbing. Xiaofan was only releasing its water spiritual aura. Its action was effective. The pearl of black tortoise suddenly stopped and was pulled into an oval shape. Then, under the three people's astonished gazes, it slowly separated into two and flew into Xiaofan's mouth and Ling Yunhe's hand respectively. Tiange was stunned for a moment. She muttered to herself, "This also works." Chapter 642. Xiaofan swallowed the black tortoise pearl and smacked her lips with satisfaction. Delicious. Unfortunately, I didn't taste it. How could it be delicious if it didn't taste it? Tiange knocked its head and said, "Take your time to taste the spirit beast bracelet." Then she pulled it back. Tiange turned around and asked, "Fei Fei, what about you?" Fei Fei held the stone and mumbled for a while before saying, "Let's go in." Tiange nodded and waited for them to run over. She then pulled them into the spirit beast bracelet. The spirit beast bracelet could store 10 spiritual beasts. Right now, Xiaofeng, Xiaofan, Fei Fei, and even the stone only had 4. Figures appeared again at the end of the stone path. There were 7 or 8 nascent soul cultivators. Tiange saw Devil Monarch Night Frost, Venerable Xuxiang, Jiewu, and Han Shizhi. Lingyan imitated Xiaofan and swallowed half of the black tortoise pearl. Then, with a wave of its sleeve, moonlight essence flew out. Tiange also moved. With a wave of her heaven and earth fan, the thunder net turned back into a ball of golden lightning and flew back into the heaven and earth fan. Then, with another wave, it turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards Old Donkey Ma. Old Donkey Ma quickly retreated. A huge windflower suddenly appeared, its blooming petals colliding with the golden lightning. "Isn't this little friend Imo?" Old Donkey Ma smiled. Tiange looked at the dreamy windflower around her and then at Old Donkey Ma's dried chrysanthemum face. She had a strange feeling. She said, "Senior Ma, it's been many years. How have you been?" Old Donkey Ma's chrysanthemum face narrowed so much that his eyes couldn't be seen. "How can I compare to you? I've never heard of you advancing from the core formation realm to the middle stage of the nascent soul realm in 50 years. As soon as he finished speaking, a wind flower suddenly appeared where she stood. With a crackling sound, the lightning net fell down. Tiange's figure dissipated into nothingness, and her real body appeared 10 feet away. Meanwhile, a lightning net wrapped the Fenghua in her original spot, unexpectedly annihilating the Fenghua. The smile on Old Donkey Ma's face disappeared. It seemed easy, but in fact, this windflower was the foundation of this secret technique. Just now, he secretly decided to capture Tiange in one fell swoop. First, half of his black tortoise pearl had been swallowed by her spiritual beast. Second, if she was seriously injured, she would definitely be flustered. He never expected that she would actually dodge his attack so easily. What kind of opportunity did this junior encounter in the Immortal Palace? She had only formed her nascent soul for a little more than 50 years, yet she could actually compete with him, a great cultivator who had accumulated many years. Before he had the time to think, the sword formation came crashing down again. He waved his whip, and just like before, the wind flowers bloomed, forcing the sword formation away. Unexpectedly, an inconspicuous sword light suddenly burst out, broke through his wind flower, and pierced towards him at lightning speed. With a soft chi sound, Old Donkey Ma looked down and saw a bloody hole in his chest. The wound made a sizzling sound. Qin Shi's 3-yang real fire sword found the most suitable opportunity to penetrate his body, and the vermilion bird's flame took this opportunity to invade his body. Old Donkey Ma threw his whip. This inconspicuous thin whip paused in the air and swung on its own. Every time it swung, the air became stagnant. After 3 or 4 swings, Emotienga and Xianxia felt the air became obscure. Whether it was the heaven and earth fan or the three young real fire sword, they all stopped there and couldn't be swung out. The gourd on old Donkey Ma's back flew up and fell into his hand. He pulled out the cork and drank a mouthful. In an instant, the wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to his body and disappeared quickly. Physical injuries weren't that serious for nascent soul cultivators, but he was actually able to expel the vermilion bird's flame so easily. It wasn't simple. She really didn't know what kind of spiritual medicine was in this gourd that could even expel the vermilion bird's flame. After 5 swings, the thin whip stopped, and old Donkey Ma's injuries were also healed. Xianxia gave her a meaningful look and Emotienga nodded. With a wave of the heaven and earth fan, an azure dragon soared and let out a roar. It opened its mouth and spat out a ball of golden lightning. The golden lightning quickly spread out and enveloped old Donkey Ma. Right after that, the windflower bloomed, but the azure dragon didn't disappear. Instead, it curled towards old Donkey Ma. Old Donkey Ma turned pale with fright. When he saw the azure dragon, he thought it was just an image of a secret technique, so he didn't take it seriously. Unexpectedly, after the astonishing power of the golden lightning, the overwhelming azure dragon's breath surged towards him. Only then did he realize this wasn't as simple as a secret technique. These azure dragon's breaths were vast and sacred, seeming to contain endless vitality. Their powerful might almost made it difficult for him, a great late-stage nascent soul cultivator, to withstand them. Old Donkey Ma secretly clenched his teeth. These 2 juniors must have guessed that the magic weapon that could freeze space couldn't be used frequently, so they immediately attacked him after he used the petrifying whip. Just as they guessed, he had to rest for several months after using the petrifying whip once. Just now, he accidentally fell into their trap and had to use the petrifying whip in advance, so he was in such a passive position now. Thoughts flashed through old Donkey Ma's mind, and he took out a glittering talisman. He drew a few strokes in the air with his fingers and lightly touched the talisman. The talisman suddenly burst out a dazzling golden light and turned into an incomparably mysterious rune. Seeing this, Emotienga's figure flashed, and she used instant movement. The jade bone puppet took a step forward, and the supporting life sword flashed with lightning as it slashed down with an indomitable posture. Ling Yunhe, who had been watching from the side, also saw this opportunity and took out the soul-restraining pearl. At this time, another powerful aura appeared, containing destruction and heat. Old Donkey Ma shifted his gaze and saw Xianxia pulling a simple longbow burning with raging flames. He was instantly shocked. He was an individual cultivator, so he was the most cunning in fights of magical powers. Just now, when Emotienga attacked repeatedly, he knew she was deliberately restraining him so that Xianxia could attack her. He also secretly prepared a backup plan, planning to beat her at her own game and counterattack. However, as soon as the vermilion bird bow appeared, he knew his backup plan couldn't stop it. He made a prompt decision and whistled. The black-clothed boy who was fighting with Nie Wuxiang rolled on the ground, revealed his true form, and ran away with old Donkey Ma on his back. Speaking of which, this donkey was really amazing. His 4 hooves seemed to have the ability to distort space. It was precisely because of this magic that Nie Wuxiang couldn't defeat him even after a long time, even though she was completely suppressing him. At this time, old Donkey Ma and the donkey, with the help of the donkey's 4 hooves, once again broke through the blockade of Jing Xingji's sword light, rushed out of the stone path, and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Old Donkey Ma. Demon Monarch Moon Shadow was furious. He knew this old guy couldn't be relied on. Once there was danger, he ran faster than anyone else. Now that he was left here alone, was he supposed to let him take another arrow? Demon Monarch Moon Shadow glared at Nie Wuxiang ferociously, then flung his cloak. The cloak left his body and turned into crows that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, rushing towards Jing Xingji and Yang Qingji. As for Demon Monarch Moon Shadow, he took advantage of this opportunity to escape with his refined corpse. Asterisk, 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 that's it? Jing Xingji mumbled. Xianxia put away the vermilion bird bow. If I don't do this, what else do you want? Seeing that more people were coming, he knew old Donkey Ma wasn't someone who would take risks easily, so he deliberately used the vermilion bird bow to scare him. Sure enough, old Donkey Ma was scared away. Demon Monarch Moon Shadow was alone. He couldn't defeat them, so he could only run away with them. In fact, this time, they were able to beat the two late nascent soul cultivators so smoothly because they had the advantage of the terrain. Yang Qingji and Jing Xingji were blocking the entrance, so Demon Monarch Moon Shadow couldn't enter. The two late nascent soul cultivators couldn't join hands, so they had no way to defeat them one by one. Even now, Emotienga still felt that it was a close call. If old Donkey Ma wasn't timid and fought to the death with the two late nascent soul cultivators, it would be hard to say what would have happened. However, now that Demon Monarch Moon Shadow and old Donkey Ma ran away, other people came. Emotienga sighed. There were so many people. How many fights would they have to fight? She took out a restorative panacea and stuffed it into her mouth. She also conveniently replaced the crystal jades on the puppets. Just as she finished, those people arrived. As soon as these nascent soul cultivators arrived, they saw Demon Monarch Moon Shadow and old Donkey Ma joining hands and fighting with them. Just as they had their own thoughts, either to help one side or to watch from the sidelines, who knew that old Donkey Ma and the others would be scared away after taking only a few steps. This time, everyone's thoughts changed again. Even Demon Monarch Moon Shadow and old Donkey Ma couldn't defeat them. Were these people really that strong? Who should they join hands with? Or should they just give up? Just as they were thinking, old Donkey Ma suddenly turned his head and shouted, "Everyone, they've already taken Black Tortoise's relic. Do as you see fit." After he finished speaking, he rode his donkey and disappeared. Old Donkey Ma's shout made all the nascent soul cultivators' eyes brighten. Emotienga smiled bitterly. Old Donkey Ma, this old guy. Even after he ran away, he still caused trouble for them. Everyone. She took a step forward and looked at them seriously. "I won't hide it from you. Black Tortoise has already recognized its master. You're too late." Old Donkey Ma already said it. It was useless to deny it now, so she simply told them the truth. They had already shown their strength. Even two late-stage nascent soul cultivators joining hands couldn't do anything to them. How could these scattered cultivators snatch Black Tortoise from them? It was better to threaten them with words. Sure enough, the cultivators hesitated. After a while, Nanguitian suddenly smiled and asked, "May I ask, who is the master of Black Tortoise's relic?" Under their burning gazes, Ling Yunhe pursed his lips and took a few steps forward. He cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Daoists, I'm the master of Black Tortoise." Once he finished speaking, everyone's gaze fell on him. Nanguitian narrowed his eyes. The fellow Daoist Ling, Emotienga, was dumbfounded. Ling Yunhe actually took everything on himself and didn't drag her into this. In fact, he could have said the other half was on her spiritual beast, Xiaofan. With Zhou Yansek's foundation in Yunzhong, these cultivators would definitely focus on her, and he would be able to escape smoothly, but now, Ling Yunhe said Black Tortoise recognized him as its master. These cultivators would inevitably be restrained because of Zhou Yan's sect. Should they snatch it or not? If they snatched it, they would offend Zhou Yan's sect. Moreover, these people were so strong. Whether they could snatch it or not was still a problem. If they didn't snatch it, would they just watch the treasure fly away in front of them? This wasn't the right attitude for cultivation. While everyone was struggling, they suddenly heard a chuckle. They turned around and saw that it was Han Shizhi. After advancing to the nascent soul realm, Han Shizhi's appearance didn't change much. The gloominess that often haunted his eyes was gone. Instead, he seemed more modest and refined. In fact, everyone in Yunzhong knew that arrogance was Han Shizhi's true nature. At that moment, Han Shizhi said unhurriedly, "When the treasure is in front of you, you'll have to rely on your own abilities. Isn't this the rule of the cultivation world? When did everyone become so courteous?" You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.